Clubhouse.
Now you're both at the club, and I'm here alone? I can't believe it.
Oh, yes, you can. You should have been expecting something of the sort.
Why should I?
Because he's right. Your ambition is out of control.
We're both ambitious.
True. But when was the last time you asked any of us what we wanted? You should be surrounded by your family right now. Look around.
Welcome to New Money, Old Rules, the Gilded Age Podcast. This is Caroline.
And this is Mike. Tonight we're discussing the penultimate episode of Season 3. This was Episode 7, Excommunicated. It was written by Lord Julian Fellowes and Sonia Warfield, and it was directed by Sally Richardson Whitfield. Sally previously directed Episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6 of Season 1, but we haven't seen them since.
Just a community note, if you want to continue the conversation and get some extra history notes, please join us on Facebook in the Gilded Age fan group HBO series. Just a reminder, we assume you guys have watched this episode. We are definitely going to be spoiling it for you, so if you haven't watched it, please go watch, come on back, and we're going to hit the highs and lows, give you some predictions, and tell you what we thought about how this one unfolded.
Well, Caroline, here we are. My favorite episode of any TV season, the penultimate episode.
If you guys don't follow our other shows, Mike always loves the penultimate. I'll be honest, I don't think I knew the word penultimate before I knew Mike. So now it's like an everyday word.
Well, here's the reason. Because the penultimate episode sets the table. A well-done penultimate episode, to me, sets the table for everything to happen and take place in the finale. So I find that often very exciting. Mm-hmm. And we see it in this episode. A lot of things are getting set, especially in the last few minutes. Dr. Kirkland arriving at 61st Street to confront Peggy or talk to Peggy about the news his mother's just shared with him. George being shot, presumably at point blank range. What's going to happen?
Crazy.
It's really an exciting episode if it's well done. So that's the question for you, the listeners, and Caroline, for you. Was this a good penultimate episode for you? Do you feel like everything is set up in a good place? Next week's episode, 69 minutes, and that's it. Yeah. Like, do you think we are leaving this episode in a good place for next week's finale? I do. I feel like we've touched upon all of these different characters throughout the whole season, but their storylines are actually naturally coming to a tapered ending here. Like we're kind of gathering people in the right places. We're having those conversations we need to have where everything's coming to an head, like we said, and that's totally what a finale is all about. The good thing is, and something we haven't gotten to experience as Gilded Age fans since the show has been on the air, is as we're recording this, it's already been announced that season 4 has been renewed. So we won't have to worry about whatever happens next week's finale. We won't have to worry like we're not going to have closure on it. How does that affect your viewing of it? Does it make you more excited, or does it amp up your enthusiasm or anticipation of the finale, knowing that whatever happens next week, we're going to get to see more of it in a season 4?
Well, I would like to think that because we only just found out that there was a season 4 renewal, that the finale was written with the intent that like maybe we wouldn't have a season 4. So I'm hoping that there's a lot of closure on everything, and that everything is going to be worth it. Everything we went through with these characters for this season, any angst that anybody went through, any horrible fights, anything that was happening, I really want it all to be worth it. It all needs to add up to something.
I feel like you're looking directly at Larry when you say that statement there.
Oh, but I'm
and
looking
Bertha and George.
I was going to say, I'm looking at George and Bertha. I'm looking at a lot of people, to be honest with you. Everybody's got some stuff that they've been working on this season, and I'm really looking forward to some of that stuff coming to, an end, coming to some closure.
Let's discuss some episode themes. I thought tonight was actually kind of a weird, especially in the Russell household, was a weird mix of people winning and losing at the same time, which I think is a good metaphor for life, right? There's often times where maybe we're winning in business, like Larry is, but we're losing in our personal lives. Either we're having relationship problems, or there's sickness or illness, but things are going great at work, or vice versa. Things are going great at home, but man, you're getting in the teeth at work, or whatever it is. I felt like Larry doing great sealing the Morenci deal, literally saving Russell Industries and the Central Illinois line deal and all of his father's plans, and really increasing esteem in his father's eyes, but losing Marion, or potentially losing Marion. Bertha is going to get to run the event of the season, the end of season Newport Ball, because Mrs. Astor has to hand it over to her. She literally abdicates a bit of the throne to her in this episode, but she's got no one to share it with. The house is empty now. George, he's winning. He wins at work, but then maybe he's getting shot. Maybe he dies. Maybe he's being dead and not going to get to enjoy it at all. Oh, Marion gets to host with Ada coming through and hoping she gets to host the suffrage meeting with Ms. Watkins. But she's got her Larry problems. There's is it a good reflection of how life is? Because I think that's then a credit to the show if it is, for being one of the things that people tune in more and more each week. Is this, life is like this. Sometimes we're winning and losing at the same time. 100%.
I think it's very realistic. I think trying to keep everything burning on the fires, at the same time, everybody's kind of moving everything all around. I definitely think that this is a situation where everyone has worked really hard, though, too, for where they've gotten to in this ending 2 episodes. I'm kind of looking at the penultimate and the finale as like a part 1, part 2 ending, really, for us. So everybody has worked extremely hard to get where they are trying to be right now. They're trying to act like it's an ending, but in a way it's just a pause, like where they're just sort of looking around to one another, like, okay, this is where we ended up at, but like, we're not done.
One of the other themes that was really kind of, I feel like has maybe been bubbling below the surface for 3 seasons now, but really for the most ever kind of started to rear its head, was this question of Oscar and his homosexuality, and who knows what and who understands what it is. There's the scene with Agnes where she really feels like she doesn't understand, or really maybe more can't admit to herself, and there's confusion there, and Marion says she thinks she understands but is confused. You have Ward outing him essentially in his book. You have Oscar in mourning here. Blake Ritson, really, this is the episode he has to submit, I think, for Emmy consideration.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's just so powerful, every scene he's in, but especially when he snaps, and we'll play it when we get to that section later, but when he snaps on his aunts about, I can't be too happy, I can't be too sad, I can't be too cheerful, I can't be too sad. I had to sit in the back like a man coming out of the rain at the funeral instead of taking my place. He can't even finish the sentence. He's in so much pain, and it's this time where obviously homosexuality is there. John Adams was very comfortable, or seemingly very comfortable with it. His sister knew and kept his secret. But Oscar is just in this place where he obviously doesn't feel comfortable with Agnes Van Ryn as his old money mother to live his truth. And we know that he's not. That's his entire storyline. The entire show has been this pressure to marry a wealthy woman, the Gladys or Maud Beaton or whatever it was, and to sacrifice his own happiness romantically in order to do his mother proud, or what he sees as an obligation to keep that family line and money going.
Yeah.
It's very sad, and it's like, where do we go from here? Does this bubble over? Does it finally come out? And if so, is that a good thing?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like in this day and age, I don't know if it is a good thing in any way for Oscar. I don't know. I think that given everything that happens with the sister and the house, he's got a pathway to live, a kind of solitary, but also, I don't want to say public life, but it's like somehow it's like he doesn't have to do it completely privately because he will have his own home now, so there's like something that's like a little bit more, sort of relaxed about that for him. I'm not sure how this is going to all work out for Oscar. He is so sad. We're going to talk about it in his section, but yeah, the theme of everything coming to a boil for him is very clear.
So for this week's listener question news segment, a segment that I'm really happy we've developed during season 3, this is more of a discussion in reaction to Marion's storyline, and especially Marion's episode last week where she leaves the letter for Larry. He hasn't even gotten home yet. He won't receive it actually until this episode that we're talking about tonight. In reaction to that, people who came out in favor of Marion's actions or supportive of Marion's actions. We were, you very much were, I was too. I'm less on board with her canceling the marriage, but I understand her anger at it. But I think people overall really were taking it even to Louisa Jacobson, who plays Marion, to the point where she had to go on her Instagram and say, she left a picture of Marion in one of her explaining poses and says, wow, the people hate to see a woman angry, scared, and unreasonable, don't they? So I wanted to talk about this a little bit, but only because it is so topical. It really was one of the main things that came out of the last episode, even more than people being shocked at John's death, was Marion and how she reacted to the news of the Haymarket and Larry being there. Is she overreacting? Is she acting unreasonable? Or is it okay for her to be angry, to be sad, to be mad, to feel like she can't trust this man who, with the hours he had before he left for a month, went here and lied about it?
Right. I mean, we talked about it a ton in the last episode, so I'm just going to hit it real quick from me. But my opinion of it is that, of course, she has every reason to be upset, to feel betrayed. He flat out lied to her, told her he was going somewhere else. And then where he did go was really a horrible, horrible reflection of who he is as a person. We did talk about last week about how it was like 80% of men have been to a strip club. So if we're going down to like, what does our society allow? What's okay? What can we do? I don't know. I mean, for me, I feel for her. I don't think she is doing anything wrong by having all these feelings. The thing that I have issue with her is, of course, the not talking to him and the just like throwing away her entire life with him without a simple discussion. I mean, that part just feels like that feels like too much, too fast. So I don't know. I mean, how about for you? I mean, if you were a guy on the other end, you would, I assume, expect at least a conversation before you get your engagement called off.
I think Larry's initial reaction is the reaction I would have had. I'm glad that he saw the letter and he didn't even really fully digest it and went right across the street. And he's like, I need to see her. And Ada runs interference. But that's the reaction. Now, I don't like, and this is, of course, what his explanation was going to be, because it's the only one he possibly could have. I lied to spare your feelings. I lied so that you wouldn't think that I was doing what you think I was doing right now.
Ugh.
It's, of course, what he's going to say. It's what I think men say, or people who get caught lying in relationships would always say. It's probably the number one on Family Feud excuse.
Right. They're just protecting you.
I'm just doing it for you. I'm lying for you.
Exactly.
And it's such bullshit. But his initial reaction of, I'm not taking the ring back. This isn't over, not until I hear from her, until we have a conversation.
And I think that part is 100% fair. And I get it. And you know what? There's no time frame here. Like, that's kind of the joke of this. It's like, it's not like Marion's pregnant. It's not like he's leaving for war. It's not like, it's like, there's no like reason we have to get married tomorrow. So hash it out. Don't talk to him for a week. Fine. Be pissed. Be real pissed. Don't talk to him, but then eventually talk to him, and work this out, or decide we can't work it out. Either which way is fine, but have a conversation about it.
Let's get into tonight's episode. We have to begin with Ward, because I think Ward and Ward's book.
What a shocker, dude. And I knew we knew this was coming, but because of real life and all of your research that you've done into Ward. But I mean, at the same time, Ward freaking McAllister, what are you doing?
McAllister's book ridicules society and will wreak havoc for the lot of us.
You've read it, then?
Of course not.
Don't waste your time, Lena. I've read it. Twice. And I'm sure you would not enjoy it.
I've thought about this, and this is why we have convened our meeting. I believe that, in future, we must exclude Ward McAllister from our society. Ban him. Freeze him out.
So he is to be excommunicated?
Yes. Beginning with my end-of-the-season ball in Newport. He is no longer included on the guest list.
Nor should he be. He should have known this would happen when he decided to betray our trust.
I have been fond of him, but I do not disagree.
We are all victims of his cruel tongue. No one can deny it.
We are indeed.
Oh, this must be so hard for you, Lena. Dealing with this as well as your daughter's present situation.
Thank you, Mrs. Fish. But let's leave it for now.
you knew this was going to be a serious conversation when we were sitting in the Van Ryn house and Bertha was there, sitting with Agnes, Ada, Mamie, and of course Mrs. Astor. This was in the trailers. I think some of these scenes were leaked in the trailer, so people knew maybe this was happening. But what kind of societal cataclysmic event would require her to be there and to have a voice? I mean, they're taking points from her. That clip was heavily edited. Mamie, we don't actually get to hear Mamie's why she is so angry, but seeing Mamie so angry, this is Mamie again now. 2 episodes this season where we've seen her with not jokes, with anger, which she takes it to Mrs. Astor about not banning Aurora, and here defending her husband and being angry at the implication that he's being cheap.
And not even just anger, though, like having a point of view. So part of Mrs. Fish's personality this whole time has been just observational. Like she would watch other people and she would keep her own stuff to herself. She would like pose hypothetical questions and stuff like that. But now in the last couple of episodes, really starting back with her party in Newport, she has started to have a point of view. Mamie Fish is actually saying her opinion, like, you have a problem, Lena. Like, being able to say that to Mrs. Astor, not like, do you suppose you have a problem? Which is what Mamie Fish of seasons 1 and 2 would have been like. But now she's like, you have a problem and you are acting like this. And like, she's being so much more assertive and speaking up for herself and having a point of view. So clearly she is starting to rise up, and it's clear that these women as a group are sort of our next, like, I feel like they're like our UN or something, like they're all going to sit down and like figure out all the problems of the world.
This is really a war council. This is a society war council. If there are going, maybe not Agnes and Ada so much, but they've got a nice room that apparently everyone is comfortable going to. But Mamie, Mrs. Astor, and Bertha and Mrs. Astor, but in real life, Mamie too, these are the people who do set the rules now. They make the rules. Ward has outlived his usefulness because obviously he's not here in this conversation. In previous seasons, if this wasn't about Ward writing a book, this was about someone else, Ward would be here as a consigliere. Now it's the consigliere. Consigliere has betrayed you, which brings us to the question, and we're going to get some insight into this, but when you're watching this is the opening scene. It starts with the Castle & Co. books, which is the real publisher. I looked it up. They were a British publisher formed in the 1850s, I believe. They are the ones that really did publish this book, and they are using the original front cover, that blue with the kind of script writing in the upper right hand corner. So it's pretty cool. And their address really was 739, 741 Broadway. It was their address at this period of time in history. So again, kudos to the history writers on the show and to the people, the set designers and prop masters. Anyway, why did Ward write this? Was it because of money? Does he need money? Is it just because of hubris? Like, you have to, what's going through here? Now, in real life, this book comes out in 1890. Ward is dead by 1895. So this is another event, and we've seen this is the 3rd or 4th, maybe 5th event that's happened. That's a real historical event that's happened this season, but happened in real life in the 1890s. They're pushing this way up. So is this the end of Ward? Does Ward not return for season 4? Because when he dies in 1895, he is a social outcast. He never recovers from this book and then other writings that he's going to go on to do. But really, this book, he never recovers. His wife, it turned out, had been an invalid, I think, for something like 27 years. So it always occurred to me, maybe he himself, maybe not being in good health, maybe he really did need the money for her care, or there was a money issue. Well, let's listen to his conversation with Lena, because I think as far as conversations in this episode, this was one of the most important ones. It's a long clip, so it's edited, but I think you're going to get the flavor for it.
Think of all the things we've done together. Don't I deserve more from you than this?
Don't I deserve more than to be made a fool in front of the entire city? You knew what you were doing, and now you must pay.
You can't throw me out of society. I am society. I made your society out of a bunch of get-rich-quick merchants and walking jokes.
Is that why you thought that you could just make fun of their secrets? For every parlor maid to read and scoff at?
Why not? They're my invention. The 400 who fit into your ballroom. They're not your 400, they're my 400. That mixture of minor birth and major money, that was my creation. That was me.
I've taken your advice. I don't deny that. I think I
When
would
we
have done
met,
it.
you were just a sad rich lady whose husband preferred the showgirls on his yacht to spending any time with you.
Ma'am.
Mr. McAllister is leaving.
Can't we just...
He's leaving. And if he ever returns to this house, he is not to be admitted.
It was before where that clip picks up, but Lena says to him, "We are done for good and all," which I only pricked up my ears because it's the second time that we've now heard that this season. George says that
said it,
to the Duke and his lawyer.
Yeah.
Way back in episodes, 1 and 2.
This scene was so important to me because it was such a great bookend to Bertha coming to Lena's house and trying to talk to her and being given that same treatment outside, watching another person leave and then being told, Mrs. Astor's not home, and she had to just turn and walk away. Now Ward forces his way in, but that exact bookend of Ward watching Bertha leave, knowing Lena's in there and being told.
And ignoring Ward because he calls out to Bertha and she just looks straight ahead.
Which is, I believe, actually, and
yes.
You guys, I didn't go back and look, but I believe is exactly what happens to Bertha. I think she tries to greet the other woman, and I believe that woman does not greet her either. So there's a whole great bookend that's going on here for Ward. I don't know what Ward's reason is. I mean, I think that this show has shown that there is a whole group of people who are just doing things for the money, whatever it is, selling secrets, writing books, doing whatever they're doing it for the money. And that's the situation right now. So I think that Ward is not crazy that he did it for the money, but it's crazy that he thought he could get away with it and somehow thought he was still going to stay in society after doing that. That part is probably the most confusing. It's him, of all people, seemingly not fully understanding the consequences of his actions.
I think he did it for the money in real life, but I think the show is trying to show us, because this conversation here and then his conversation later with Bertha, which we're going to play actually in a minute, it's I am society. He's taking credit for creating the 400, for creating high society. I mean, I think this point of no return is calling Lena a rich old lady that he just took along. I had to hitch it to someone to make it work, so I used you. You were a sad rich old lady that I knew I could get in with. But this I am society, that's humorous. The money, I think, definitely had to be at play, but yeah, I think he thought he could get away with it.
I think he did.
Agree with you, and I think
that's the head
crazy.
Scratcher, right? And it's dude, why? You're the one that understands society the best.
So I think to bookend this, I think we need to finish Ward with his conversation then with Bertha, because Ward is going to make kind of an outlandish claim. Again, this is going to be very heavily edited. These scenes were long and more longer than we can keep as a clip, or else we're just playing the episode. But she's going to ask him pointed questions. I assume the money must have been worth the societal ruin. We were friends. Why did you do this? He's going to try and make the claim that what he did is no worse than Aurora Fane's sin of her husband cheating on him, or Charlotte being ousted from society because, she is the adulterer, but Bertha's going to say, men have more license. But Ward's thinking here is real off base. He really misjudges where his standing is, which is ultimately going to be the lesson I think that Bertha tells him he needs to take away from this, and that I think Bertha herself also needs to take away from this. Let's listen to this conversation between Bertha and Ward.
Why were you so unpleasant about us? I thought we were friends.
I wanted to show that these golden people who behave like the kings of France are just ordinary men and women.
That's what they won't forgive. If I did, I think I would end the ban on divorced women.
Oh.
I'd invite Aurora Fane and Mrs. Drayton, which Mrs. Astor would approve of.
I don't know about that. I'm curious. Would you invite me?
No.
Their offense is not as damning as mine.
You made a choice. Mrs. Fane is facing a situation that is no fault of her own.
And Mrs. Drayton?
Men are forgiven for their indiscretions and women are punished. It's not fair. The truth is, there but for the grace of God go us all.
It appears that I'm not going anywhere in society. Unless you can save me.
I can't. I haven't the power. And nothing is more perilous than to overestimate your own power.
Now, of course, I feel like that last line, that nothing is worse than overestimating your own power. I think that's Bertha's entire season here. When I'm looking at this, yes, she's talking about Ward, but I think she's talking about more than that. I think there's a lot that she's saying there that's like, I thought things were going to go a certain way and they didn't go the way I thought they were going to go. And that's a lot. It's funny. Ward's little story is small. It's a small little tale, but to me, you can blow it up and be like, look how easy it is to be like one false move, whether you're Larry going to the wrong restaurant, whether you're poor John Adams stepping off the curb at the wrong time, like just unintended consequences. It feels like a theme here.
And that's life, though, like winning and losing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Bertha, even in this conversation, if you're taking what she's saying to Ward as her own lesson that she, I have in my notes here, she knows the words, but has she learned the lesson? Clearly, I don't know if she has, because there's going to be conversations here where George says to her, like, look around, the house is empty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, great, you're going to run the ball. Go talk to the servants downstairs. You pay them to have to talk to you. They can't go to the Union Club. Like, everyone else is gone. You either ship them off or force them out from their point of view. I just can't get over Ward's egomania here, though. This idea that their offense is not worse than mine.
It feels a lot like
Aurora. What did poor Aurora do?
Yeah, no, that's just weird. That's just weird and sad. That's a sad argument, Ward. I wonder very much if this is just a product of outside show production. Like maybe, Nathan Lane had some other project he needs to move on to or whatever. And that's why we chose to do this now in the storyline, because they could have done it next season. It would have been fine in a lot of ways, except for that, of course, this fast forwards Bertha on the track. And not only that, but sort of fast forwards Mrs. Astor out of the situation.
Which is consistent with them escalating timeline events. Like,
yes.
Charlotte's affair doesn't happen for many more years than they're portraying it now.
Right.
The duel, this book, Mrs. Astor does eventually essentially retire before she passes away in 1908. But Mamie and Bertha, and then another woman we haven't actually met on the show yet named Terry Ehrlichs, Oerlichs, they take over as they're known as the triumvirate of society, and the three of them run society together. But we've met two of the three, so maybe this is just an escalation of what really happened in the Gilded Age, because Lord Fellows and Sonia Warfield, they know that they don't have forever. Maybe they've got season 4, but maybe they don't have season 5. So maybe they feel like they need to move the bus along a little bit quicker.
I think so.
The term, the 400, I believe doesn't actually officially get used before Ward McAllister gives it to the New York Times, I think in 1890. That's a cornerstone of the show here.
But maybe he casually referred to that.
He does.
He must.
He did. Like, but the actual listing of it, like the formal, he's like, fine, I'm going to tell you my secrets. It's all part of this whole book thing.
Okay.
Of like showing this light on people. And Bertha says in that clip, and he's like, well, I just wanted to show like these are just like everyone else. People like just like us. Remember was it People Magazine or Star Magazine? Yeah. Celebrities just like us. Like this is like Ward's version of that, but it's societal
They also
ruin.
Get milk.
Right. They also have wedgies, or whatever. But Bertha says that's what they can't forgive you, Dotus. How do you know this so well? And how were you able to create this thing so well with Mrs. Astor? But you lost the thread, buddy.
And then implode
but
so
you lost
royally.
The thread. I mean, it's classic humor. So we see this time and time again in real life and in TV shows. People, they overestimate their power. Ward, to his detriment, has learned that lesson this episode. Has Bertha? I don't know if Bertha has. Before we skip off of this, I just want to go back to a conversation between Charlotte and Lena really quickly. Nestled into here, this is kind of like Bruce and Mrs. Bruce and Borden. I want to talk about it just because the show is keeping it at the forefront. We haven't seen Carrie Astor really at all this season, but man, we really got a lot of Charlotte and her troubles, and her issues this season. There's a conversation where Lena essentially tells her daughter, you need to stop this divorce from happening at all costs. And Charlotte rightly points out to her mother, I'm the adulterer in this special friendship. I can't stop it. If James Drayton wants to, her husband James wants to prosecute the divorce, he can. Like, I can't stop him. And Lena doesn't seem to understand. She's just like, do it. Do it. Which feels like a conversation maybe Mrs. Astor needs to have actually with James Drayton, not Charlotte. And the fact that Lena, given Charlotte's troubles, she's willing to cancel the ball versus invite her daughter. It's either I have to leave my daughter off the list or cancel the ball. Those are the only two choices. It never even occurs to her, I could just invite Charlotte and Aurora.
Well, I can't, because then she's breaking her own rules.
Right, but do you give her credit in a bizarre, ass-backwards kind of way for so stringently living by her code? Is that admirable in any way? Pros, cons, she's a villain, she's not, she's misunderstood, she's old money, and we're new money people. Is there something admirable,
Are we all of a sudden new money people?
Caroline, I think by every standard,
Mike and I suddenly have a bunch of money.
We are new poor money people.
I missed the part where I got rich.
We're just new.
Okay, we're just new people.
We're just new people.
New to the planet.
Old money, new people. It's the new podcast we're launching. It's great.
It'll be later.
Yes, in the fall, before Yellowstone comes back. Is there something admirable? Because I think...
Well, stick to your value system. I mean, I guess in some way, I mean, when we're looking at all these people who are like basically backstabbing one another in various ways or accusing one another of doing things behind each other's backs, like Larian or all this shit that George is so angry with Bertha, even though it's all like right in front of him. But at the same time, I feel like for Mrs. Astor, she is like the North Star for like all these people, right? So she feels like she has to take like the personal hits to her own family in order to lead all the rest of society, right? So for her, I think that she doesn't have any choice here. And I think this was actually kind of a cool workaround because she kind of made it Bertha's problem. Like if Bertha wants to invite her daughter, well, you know, Lena can't say anything to that. So
Lena, who accused her of having bad taste, except for when she added Marion to the bridesmaids.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's a workaround that maybe Bertha could invite them. What I did think was neat, again, talking about the bookends and the way that the stories that Lord Fellows and Sonia Warfield tell, I thought this was interesting because if you notice, we're having this Mrs. Astor mother-daughter conversation with Charlotte about how to use her feminine wiles and use whatever it takes to get James to not divorce her. This is a very similar conversation that we're having with Bertha and Gladys about you need to use what you have. You need to remind him why you're worth it. You need to show your value, all those things. So I think it's really neat that it's like the way that they do that, like really small story to like the really big story. There's often like a same thing going on.
But it's also a great demonstration of the tools available to women at this time period. Though.
Very little. Right.
This is what they had to work with. And the women who had succeeded within their spheres of the world knew that these were the tools you needed to employ. There's no shame in that game. It's what you have to do. But
it's the only option.
If you don't succeed, if you fail in executing your womanly wiles, it's going to be bad for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's going to be bad for Gladys and the Russells if she can't get the Duke in line and get Lady Sarah out. It's going to be bad for the Astors if Charlotte can't get James in line and keep this divorce off of the gossip pages.
I think back to even the conversation that we had about...
Which is gross, to be fair, in 2025 lens. I don't want to be able to be like, Mike is all about like women using their sexuality as their only tool.
Well, and I said feminine wiles. Right. I didn't just say sexuality. So there's more to wiles, right?
And persuasion. But in 1884... this was it. We don't even have the right to vote yet.
Right.
We have very minimal rights.
No, but
they can't open up credit cards or loans yet. You know,
go back to when Ada was talking to Aurora and asking about, do you think that Charles could be drinking? And that's why things could be going wrong. There's this feeling for me that women have to keep everybody in line. Everybody in line. The men in line, the children in line, other women in line, whatever, right? Like this is like somehow the women are forced to I don't know, to keep up the standards and keep up whatever is appropriate in society is basically going to be determined by the women and wherever they hold the line. So it's like, if this group decides that like, fine, everyone could go to the Haymarket, then the bar drops, you know, like as a group. It's interesting to me to then hear Lena have these conversations, Ada have these conversations, Bertha have these conversations that are all a lot about keeping men in line. And what do you need to do? Like, do you need to cast alcohol out of your house? Is that how you're going to keep your man in line? Or like, are you going to do this or that to keep from getting divorced? Or what do you need to do to get Lady Sarah out of your face? Like, whatever, right? All of these things seem like it's a different job that I don't think we paid that close attention to. We looked at it like individual characters, like Bertha would yell at George in the group, like, it's my job to like determine the rules of society kind of thing. But it's like now we're actually seeing it, and we're seeing it in these individual personal moments where it's like somehow it's up to the woman to somehow keep everybody in line.
It's interesting too, because it's the three women that you just mentioned who have also expressly more than at least once, and I think in all of their cases more than once, have said something along the lines of men can play, society forgives men, society is less stringent on men in their transgressions, and women are held to a harsher standard. Ada, Bertha, Mrs. Astor have all had to have those conversations with women, younger women that they're mentors of to an extent.
Even Ada
and explain them.
Marion,
so it's part of not only your job duties, you know, and the tools available to you, but also here are the consequences. The rules are different for you. The rules are different for men. You're going to be held to a harsher standard. So not only do you have to use the tools you have available to you, do your duties in society, but also expect to be treated worse as a second-class citizen, you know, which is something that I appreciate. But also it's like, you guys have now lived your full lives. You're in especially Mrs. Astor and Ada, like you're in the later years of your life. And society is now no different than it was when you came into it. So did you fail by not using your power when you were at the height of your powers? And I'm looking at you, Mrs. Astor, to better the cause of women. This is the same question for kind of Mrs. Kirkland. How powerful, how rich do you need to be? How proud a member of society do you need to be before you will actually help women advance? Take them with you. In so many other cases, it doesn't even seem to be a thing for them to do. But Bertha does.
Do you know why, though? Like, so Bertha's interesting, but so for the other women, this society works for them.
Yeah.
Like Mrs. Kirkland stays in power, right? And she stays the at the high end of the hill here, right? Like she gets to be the one on top. So she's the one that would want to protect it, even though she doesn't have as much. She has more than others. So it's like a game of like, well, I just don't want to have the least, you know, so I need to keep pushing other people under me.
I'm certainly not qualified to speak on feminism.
No.
But I will say that men who get ahead by stepping on other men versus lifting all boats rising together are my least favorite kind of men.
Oh.
I feel it's so weak. I feel like it's the easiest course. It's the easiest thing to do is to become taller because you're standing on someone and squashing them, instead of why don't we all find something we can stand on together and become taller. Take that for what you will. But okay, so because this plays into conversations of why Bertha went to Aurora at Mamie's party and those mean girls who got up literally and walked away. Is it Bertha really gives a shit about Aurora? Does Bertha really care about whether or not Aurora is at the end of season ball or Charlotte Drayton is at the end of season ball? Or is Bertha, where she finds herself in late season 3 of the Gilded Age, thinking about her own standing and seeing the wins in her own house, and she needs to be proactive on not having divorcees banned and shunned from society because of the way the winds are blowing in her own house?
Well, I definitely think that is coming into play for her, but she has always been somebody who decides to sort of find an issue, you know, whether it be the opera house or now divorce, and decide to go the new money route and say, like, look, there's a lot of women who are getting divorced here all around us who, like, we care about, and we don't want to see them get shunned. We've had in season 1, we already had like some like whisperings of like the people who were shunned off in Newport and stuff like that. But now we're all the way up to season 3, and now we know the people like Aurora, you know, who are getting pushed off. So this is a move to, again, choose the opposite of old money, you know? So it's like old money was the academy and no divorces. right? And so now we're new money and we're the Met and you're fine if you got divorced.
Boxes for both.
Boxes for everyone on that, right? So that's how I'm taking it, is that Bertha's honestly like, that's where there's a space. There's a void in the who's pro-divorce and who is like, or pro-divorcee, I want to say, right? Because that's a difference. It's not like she's out there encouraging Aurora to get divorced. She's just trying to give her a space in society.
It shouldn't be a death sentence.
Right. Yes. And that's totally fair. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is self-serving in that, but the same as the opera box. I mean, she wanted the opera box, so she built her own. If she's about to get divorced, she's building her own society that will accept divorces.
So here's a question, though. Now, this is a wrinkle to the earlier question of, is it any less admirable? Because now we're talking about a woman who is using her power to change society and advance women. If she's successful, if she can get Aurora to this ball, if she can get Charlotte to this ball, she will have advanced the cause of women that becoming divorced doesn't eliminate you from society.
At least it's not automatic, right?
Right. Depending on the issues that have come to fore, and which levels the playing field, because certainly no one's keeping James Drayton if he was an adulterer, or Barrow, who clearly was an
Charles.
or Charles, right? Charles, of course, I'm sorry.
Please.
Yes. Charles, no one's keeping Charles off of the guest list for his transgressions. So maybe the playing field is being leveled here. So that's great. Does it diminish it because it is self-serving or potentially self-serving for Bertha? Or not? Does it matter? Does the ends justify the means?
I'm going to say ends justify the means on this one, just because I think that Bertha is in the right. The idea that women need to be shoved off to sort of like the outskirts of the earth as far as people are concerned, like as far as you can go until you just walk into the ocean, like that's where we're going to shove you.
Wear a high hat.
Yes.
So it gets you further out.
Exactly. I don't care that Bertha's doing it. That will also benefit her. That's the funny thing. I don't actually care. I think it's good that we are actually giving women a spot to hang on to when their husbands go like Charles Fane on them.
Maybe that's why Aurora's hats were so high this season.
Oh, you think? Because she was going to walk into the ocean?
So she could walk higher. Because she had very high hats every time we've seen her this season.
There was a bunch of high hat ladies. Charlotte also had. I think maybe it was a divorcee thing. Maybe that's to indicate like my feathers up. My feathers up.
Feathers up. Ocean's in.
I'm available if anyone's looking.
This is the reverse of peacocking.
Yes. Well, maybe it's like peacocking, but it's like, via your chapeau.
I want to bookmark this, listeners. Make sure we hit this item next week. Send us reminders, because the ball will happen next week. Table set.
We've got to assume the
table is being set. So check mark. Did we set the table? Yes, we're setting the table for a Newport end of season ball. The question to discuss at the end of next season, assuming the ball comes off, what are the implications for season 4? Now that we can talk that we have a season 4. The question is, how much power did Lena really give away here? Did she give away a substantial amount of power? Did her throne become greatly diminished by handing this off and not being able to manage her business and her daughter and scandal and run society?
And don't forget, lose her lackey. Ward was her little buddy.
And back-to-back defeats now also, because now Ward was by her at the failure of the Academy, and now away, and now she's failing again at the Newport season ball. That's two things now that she was a stamp of, a calling card, things you're known for. You go to IMDb, what is the actor known for, right? Yeah. What is Mrs. Astor known for? What two things would be Academy of Music
and Newport Balls
and end of season Newport Ball. That's two things now that's moved over to Bertha's known for. Mm-hmm. So you have to ask, is this the decline? How much will this cause a decline?
I think it is. I mean, I think that this is the story that Lord Fellows was always wanting to tell us, was the downfall and the big changeover, But I think that Lena, she has to do what she's doing in holding the line, because if she doesn't, it kind of makes her look like a fool for all the years prior, because she held so tight. If she had been somebody who had shown some flexibility with her rules over the years, then maybe she could allow Charlotte to escape this divorce, pall over her head. But she can't, because her calling card is stringency. You know, it's like I never break the rules for anybody.
There's that famous,
and that was the bummer.
There's that famous quote, right? That tyrants everywhere and dictators everywhere, they always lose power because their grip is so stringent. The tighter your grip is, the faster someone will eventually slip through it, because there is no leniency, there is no give in your grip. So.
And doesn't that feel like exactly what we're seeing?
Yes. Let's keep with Bertha, since we're already talking about her. Let's deal with the woes of Bertha. Here's George and Bertha, part 1.
Can you really not forgive me? I made things right with Gladys.
So you say.
So it is. Of course, I want you home for my benefit, but also Mr. McAllister's book paints us in a horrible light.
What has he written?
He implies we're not happy. He makes us seem weak, greedy, and foolish.
I can't be bothered with gossip.
If only it were gossip. But this is being printed, bound, and sold all over the city. All over the country, I dare say. And Mrs. Astor's Newport ball is coming up.
That is not my concern.
It does affect you. The only way to stop gossip is truth. If we all appear together, we can put these ugly rumors to rest.
Are you really so oblivious that you cannot see what I am going through? A possible catastrophe that will overwhelm us all unless I can get our finances in order.
What's happening? Are we headed for the poorhouse?
I can't answer that.
Why did you not tell me this sooner?
Because I thought I would have solved it by now.
Are you afraid you won't?
If it's not too much to ask. Unless you have something more important to discuss than Newport balls and idle gossip, I suggest you let me get back to saving our family from ruin.
One thing I have to bring up that really troubled me about this clip, I think the things we've heard here are things we've heard before. George didn't realize it was going to get so bad and didn't have time, or told himself he didn't have time to sit down and discuss it with Bertha. But what I really think is his ego didn't want to think that it was really, he was on the brink of ruin. The thing that I need to talk about in this clip is the way she recoils in fear when he finally snaps at her and leans into her. Bertha is a strong woman. Bertha often acts without any kind of fear. Nothing seems to really get to her. She recoils here. She leans back, and it's a credit to Morgan Spector and to Carrie Coon, the way they acted this scene. But this had to be intentional to me, whether it was Miss Richardson, directing, or the way it was directed in the notes, or just the way the actors felt the scene was playing. She recoils in fear to him. That's how I take it. That is something new. Mm-hmm. Don't you think? How did you see the scene?
Yeah, I've never seen Bertha be physically afraid of George, I don't believe. And
no, I think that was
frightening. I mean, I felt like there was a lot of severity actually in this episode. Like everything amped up a little bit more than normal. Like this series is not running at a 10 normally. We run at probably about a 5 in this series, which is like there's dramatic things that happen, but they're usually unfolding, and there's sort of mysteries at a time when you have to like look around and be like, okay, what do you think's going to happen next? That type of thing. But like, I don't feel like there's like these big, huge moments throughout the entire series. But this season and these last couple episodes, everything was amped up. Like when George talked, when Oscar talked, like the spit that came out of everybody's mouths, it was like vehement language, the way that they're just like hissing at the women in their lives. It's terrible. I don't know. Do you find it to be true that whenever men do feel a lot of pressure, they tend to lash out at women?
Yes.
Or just everybody? Or is it it women specific, or is it they just lash out at everybody? Or does everyone, it's not a man, female thing. It's just.
I think it's probably everyone. I think we notice it when it is a man lashing out at a woman, when it's a husband lashing out at a wife, because often there's a size difference, there's a physicality difference, there's a volume difference. Two men lashing out at each other, it kind of goes by in the background.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Two women lashing at each other kind of goes by in the background. A man who, up until a few episodes ago, was nothing other than doting and beyond amorous and admiring of his wife, is now getting in her face.
Yeah.
The stress, all the anger, every episode we've talked about, I feel like in season 3 of, maybe except for the first 2, his work is getting to George. He hasn't gotten the savior at this point in the episode. Larry hasn't come and saved things yet. In the end, George's concerns in this clip don't even matter. So what's the point of this clip? What's the efficacy of this clip? Why is this clip here? it's the show that she is actually afraid of him now.
Yeah.
That's how bad things have gotten. That's how escalated their relationship problems are. That she's now, it's beyond just talking pithy to each other. It's beyond just, I don't care about your social calendar. This is, I'm screaming at you, get out of my face. That is an escalation. That is a bad place to be. That's why I play the clip, because the words don't matter. George, you don't actually have any financial problems. You just don't realize it yet. Your son is still in the cab. He's somewhere getting out of the Lincoln Tunnel, which isn't built yet, in his cab. Coming
You're going to
back.
confuse so many listeners with that comment.
Sure.
He's just joking.
But he hasn't arrived back at the house yet when this clip is. So he doesn't realize his business is already saved. So discard all of that. But he's letting himself be so angry at his wife, who is making a valid point, and a point that had she made in season 1, he would have been on board with.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so as a woman,
optics matter.
I'm gonna only say it for my own self. I feel like I have been scapegoated, in my life. And I don't know if it's because I'm a woman. I don't know if it's because I'm smaller in size than people in my life. I don't know, but I definitely feel like...
You don't scream back either, typically.
I've been scapegoated, but I don't know, do you feel that way as a man? Is that a common feeling or something that you have felt? When someone else is super pissed in their own life and they're stressed out, are you the scapegoat, or is it a woman thing, or is it just a personal thing? It's just my life.
I think it's a person thing. I have been scapegoated in relationships before. There have been things in relationships where I deserve to be the one who is mad at. But there are things in my life in relationships where I've been scapegoated. I think that's a relationship thing. I think that happens between people in relationships.
Well, so what I'm asking is...
But professionally, I have been scapegoated many times.
Well, so could Bertha do that to George, is my question. Is there any scenario in which Bertha could turn and blame George the way that he's blame? Do you think
she could?
Have we seen that? I'm really trying to rack my brain.
No.
Listeners, I'm asking you guys to use your eyes and ears and help me out with this. Is this only a George to Bertha dumping vent, or do they do this to each other?
Because George's failings at business that we have seen this season, and even with the union problems that he had, because think most of the union storyline did not go George's way until it did at the end. Mm-hmm. Bertha wasn't actively involved in that, and it didn't affect Bertha's life in her trying to run society and get Gladys out and get the Duke. None of George's failings ran into Bertha's
but
life.
Kind of, because with the dowry and the Duke and
that was
money.
This season. Yeah, okay.
No, I know,
right.
But it started to get into.
But she could have prosecuted it more. She could have said, "Your bad business is costing us everything." But here's the thing: he would have screamed more loudly back at her. Mm-hmm. You forced this situation. We're going to hear it in these clips. Yeah. He's going to say to her, "Your ambition is out of control." And she's like, "We're both ambitious."
Yes.
She's like, "Yes, but I take the pulse of what we want." But we're going to get.
But that's also hilarious because George takes the pulse of nobody. George didn't go to everybody and be like, "Hey, how does everyone feel about copper mines?"
Right.
No one is being asked their
Gladys,
opinion.
are you on the transatlantic railway?
Right. On or off. Everyone would have 2 thumbs up at dinner if
everyone make the choo-choo. Choo-choo. Exactly. Blow that horn if you're on transatlantic railway. I'm taking pulses.
Exactly.
All right, let's continue. We have another Bertha clip because I have a little problem with how Larry behaves in this episode with his mother also.
Oh, she's so flip with her.
So rude. Let's take a listen.
I'm in no mood to celebrate.
After what you've achieved? Why not?
Miss Brooke called off the wedding.
Why? What happened?
I don't know. She won't speak to me.
Well, surely you can sort it out.
I don't understand the reason. The letter didn't say.
If she's changed her mind about you without explanation, surely that shows more about her character than yours.
No one is ever good enough for you, are they? Did you have anything to do with this?
How could you ask such a thing?
He's asking because we know what you're capable of.
Is my whole family against me now?
Ever since you started using us as pawns in your plan to dominate the world.
You must understand, I only want what's best for you.
No, you don't. You want what's best for you. And if it doesn't suit your plan, you seek to destroy it. Ask Billy Carlton, ask any one of Gladys's suitors. And now Marion?
Where are you going?
I can't spend another minute in this house. I'm moving to the club.
Larry, please.
You guys, I am going to call this the coffee cup phenomenon. I feel like ever since that coffee cup was revealed to have been, sabotaged with Monica, Bertha's sister.
Who disappeared.
Who disappeared? Well, I mean, she just left. She was a wedding guest. She didn't disappear. But I feel like ever since that happened, Bertha's like shenanigans became so like low level and like silly, like especially to George, because he witnessed that whole thing and he knew what she had done and everything. Like it had become so petty and small, the things she was doing like that,
Plus the Duke written large though, then large things like marrying off the Duke and leaking things. Cause I think they accuse her of being the one leaking things.
Oh yeah, potentially. Also. Yeah. Because it would like give some cool scuttlebutt to your event, right. You know? Yeah, completely. So I'm giving this the coffee cup phenomenon. That is what has changed. Why all of a sudden we are all turning on Bertha in a way that's like so much more severe, in a way that everybody has to go live at the Union Club instead of even living at home anymore. To me, that little stunt, it's so stupid, but that's the point. It's so stupid. And you still did that to your sister. What will you not do? You know? And I do want to address, because I know we've had a listener or two ask us like, or sort of imply that we think Bertha is like perfect and everybody else sucks. Here's the deal. I don't think Bertha's perfect. Not at all. I think she's got all these dreams that she wants to accomplish, but she has tons of flaws. I mean, she makes lots of bad choices. I think, though, as a character, they have rounded her out better than most of the other characters. So a lot of the things you hear us complaining about other characters is probably just because we don't have enough meat on those characters to be able to understand their motivation or what their next move might be. And so that can be frustrating for us as audience members. But for Bertha, I think they've done such a good job of creating a character that is real and three-dimensional and everything that it's not so hard for us to figure her out. So I don't think we complain about her as much.
Yeah, and I think there's an empathy and a sympathy to her position. You know, I go back to when we listened to Carrie at ATX this past spring, when she said that Bertha in season 3 was really about her ambition, because she was doing the analysis of, if Bertha had been born a man, Bertha would run the world.
Right.
But she's not. So what is the wife in 1884 of a powerful man supposed to do?
Or even able to do.
Or able to do. And her answer was, put your ambitions on your daughter. Put your ambitions on your children and do everything, spend every breath you have to get their plans going.
It's essentially like, it's like setting up,
she did.
It's setting up generational wealth. I mean, yes. So it's George's job to bring in the money initially, and it's Bertha's job to actually create the generational wealth, create the marriages, create the family structure, create all the different literal like financial mergers that need to happen between the Russell house and another house so that there can be generational wealth. And that's how the Russells stay on top forever instead of, just being a blip.
Perfect example is in this episode, we're going to hear the term Livingston Manor several times. We are recording in an area where it's near Livingston Manor, and it is as far from Manhattan as you possibly can be in 1884, but we're still talking about generational wealth, and it's Robert Livingston and Robert the Elder. That was 134 years already where this show is taking place, and we still talk about them as if they were just here and their lasting effects. You're right. That's what Bertha's trying to set up. She's trying to set up so that 100 years from 1884, which would be right around now, or the early 2010s, we would be talking about the Russell Manor, the Russell wealth, and the descendants of the Russells. The first American dollar princess is about to give birth to Winston Churchill right around this time. Like, generational wealth. That's what Gladys potentially is. Gladys potentially gives birth to an important person in the 20th century of England and America. Status and wealth are all tied together.
And let's be super clear about that, because some people might say like, well, yeah, but look, the Duke didn't have a lot of money. Why was that a good move? Well, but he had status and he had the nobility. And so you're trying to get that combination of status that old money has for just because they've been around a long time. So you're trying to like shortcut time by saying like, we have status by marriage, which is just something that other people achieve literally just from time.
I want to talk about Larry. Larry in this scene where he accuses his mother because as it turns out, Marion's letter didn't actually say why she was breaking things off with him, which
is so confusing.
Drives me. Why did you even leave the fucking letter?
Why did she say the letter explains it best?
It explained nothing. So Larry at this point really has no idea what happened. And so he accuses his mother, which you know what? I kind of get. And we know what you're capable of, and it's the coffee cup, it's everything that happened with Gladys at the door.
You guys, 1,000 things before that. Don't get me wrong. Right. Don't say, Caroline, it wasn't just the coffee cup. Yes, no, I know that.
But
I'm saying that was like it was the straw.
Right.
It was the
silly straw, a silly minor straw.
Hay straw on the back of the camel. That was just so petty.
Straw.
Haymarket straw. Right.
But Larry then later on, when she comes to talk to them at their office about how she won and beat Mrs. Astor a bit and is going to be able to host the Newport end of season ball, and Gladys and the Duke are coming, Larry says to her, "Oh, you'll have all your pawns back on the board. You must be so pleased with yourself." And then he announces earlier that he's moving out of the house and going to the Union Club, so they pick up another resident. But
that part's so kind of silly.
I don't like that George just lets Larry talk to his mother this way. Yes, Larry's a grown man. But Larry, until this minute, has been living under their house like a little boy.
And still does. I mean, going to the Union Club is just a hotel.
Say what you will. I don't have a relationship. My mother has passed away, but I didn't have a great relationship with my mother, especially in the last years of her life. I would never have talked to her this way, though.
Right.
And this is one I didn't even talk to, and I would not have ever spoken to her this way, especially not to her face.
Right.
I find that very unacceptable. I find it very unacceptable that George doesn't. He can talk to his wife maybe that way, or at least in a pointed way, and say the way things are, the way he sees them.
Well, it's not nice, but
it's not nice, but it's not a misbalance of power necessarily. This is your son. This is slap across the face worthy to me anyway. If I'm Bertha, and she just takes it, and I don't like that she just takes it, but I don't like that Larry just gets away with it.
I'm with you wholeheartedly.
Bertha has really let Larry run free. She has not interfered in his life, even to an ounce of how she interfered in Gladys's life. So I think Larry's a little off base here. Like, you've actually had pretty free reign to do what you want.
Well, but he's convinced in this moment that she sabotaged Marion.
Well,
so
maybe,
that was
maybe
the pawns off the table.
Bertha a letter that doesn't say anything about why it's her feelings. All right, let's finish off Bertha, and this is Bertha and George. And this really kind of hits the nail on the head about, at least for the male characters in Bertha's life, where they feel she has put herself of her own doing.
Now you're both at the club, and I'm here alone? I can't believe it.
Oh, yes, you can. You should have been expecting something of the sort.
Why should I?
Because he's right. Your ambition is out of control.
We're both ambitious.
True. But when was the last time you asked any of us what we wanted? You should be surrounded by your family right now. Look around.
George being all cruel with this. Look around you. This was so much.
Is he being hypocritical here? And even if he is being hypocritical, does he still have a point?
I'm not sure, because to be honest with you, I don't know.
Your ambition out of control is an indictment.
Okay, but hold up. I have adult children who are in their 20s. I don't expect to see them constantly every day, all the time at my house. So for me, I feel like it's weird to be like, look around you. Your family's not even here. I want to be like, if I was Bertha, I'd be like, because they're grown, George. Why would I see them all the time? They're not toddlers, right? Like, that's fine that I don't have everyone here. They're off living their lives. They're adult people. So like, I get what he's saying, that like the support of the family should be rallying around Bertha and everything. And
it's a moment of triumph.
It's a moment, yes, that she's been wanting. And George is so petty this season, you guys. He's so petty. Everything, the turning back around, that last moment of being like, look around you. It's so dramatic. Oh my God.
Well, as this episode closes, though, we really, she, after this conversation, she's actually talking to Mrs. Bruce, who, by the way, it was Andre. She was getting $40 a story.
Yes.
That's $1,300. That's just over $1,300 a story that got published, a story. That's a lot of money. I get why she did it. And she says, I like you all. I like the mistress, but money is money.
Oh, and she's just like, I'm gonna pack my bag. Toodaloo.
Yeah. So
that
at the end, so I hope y'all weren't expecting a bigger, like, gunfight or something in the middle of the street. It was Andre. They figured it out. Maybe Church has some secret past. He had, like,
I know. That was a funny one-liner.
Say, like, I wasn't born a butler. Well,
that was
obviously you weren't, but were you a cop or something?
I don't know. That's what it seemed like.
Were you a private dick or something?
CIA.
I don't know. Season 4, Church Undercover.
I want to know what's up.
Whatever. We're never going to talk about it. They tracked her down. It was her. So, talking to Mrs. Bruce in the hallway, Mrs. Bruce apologizes. They didn't catch her quicker. They didn't this or that. And Bertha just has this one line. She says, even when we think we know someone, we really don't. Which obviously goes to Andre. Remember, I pointed out the line she said when they were in England. She's like, thank God I have you, Andre, fighting for me, so I'm not fighting alone. And here we are. Mm-hmm. She was actually betraying you the whole time. Like, no one in your life, Bertha. Everyone is close every door to me, like you're Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. But
also the cool small story, big story.
Small story, big story.
So small story is Andre betrayal. Big stories, we've got other betrayals.
But let's say she's talking about George here, metaphorically. Even when we think we know someone, we really don't. Is she talking about George there, metaphorically? And if so, is that overly dramatic? Does she feel like George is not being the person she thought she knew based on how...
I mean, come on. Season 1, all we heard was how they're just like teammates and they're taking on the world together and they're just like so good together.
But that's removing any kind of actions on her part, though.
Well, yes, okay. I mean, I agree.
George isn't acting in a vacuum.
Okay,
yes,
true.
The anger over businesses, but his problem with Bertha, his real problem with Bertha, not snapping at her about business things, but his actual anger at Bertha is about Gladys, which she did unilaterally.
That's true.
So if she's like, I didn't really know someone, I think George could say the same thing about her. Like, I knew she was ambitious, but not that sell our daughter across the water without my input ambitious.
I think that's completely fair.
So I found this line, if it's about George, maybe a bit overdramatic, but there's actually a little bit of me that was like really going deep on it. Maybe this line is actually a little bit about Bertha. Maybe Bertha's doing some soul searching in that conversation when she says the word of, it is perilous to overestimate your own power. Maybe Bertha actually in this episode maybe she is looking around and she is sitting there. She takes her meals. When George walks out, she's just sitting there looking around in her parlor. Maybe Bertha's questioning, how far do I want to go? How much am I willing to lose in order to get what I want? Winning and losing at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. And I think that it is a question mark. She does seem to be reflecting on things that she's done and like looking back a little bit and thinking about it and trying to course correct. I think this entire thing with the divorce thing is making her stop. And like the topic of divorce is making her stop and take stock of herself, of her marriage, of society, of everything. And so you could apply it to Charles Fane. You could apply it to like so many people, right? Like you think you know him, but you really don't. I think it's a good universal point for her to make.
Certainly Marion would be saying this line, I think, about Larry at this point. I thought I knew him.
I'm pretty sure she does say it.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't know him at all. I mean, she's going to have a devastating line with every man in my life that's ever failed me, but we're not quite up to Marion yet. But let's move on. Let's stay with the Russells. Let's deal with George and Larry and business.
I have some good news.
I could use that.
Morency is ours.
That is good news. Though it may not be enough to help us in our current travails.
I think you might be surprised. Here.
What is this?
Father, this land is worth more money than you can imagine.
I don't understand.
The reports you had were wrong, or old and incomplete. The mines are full of copper.
Clay told me he had the area surveyed and it was worthless.
I paid to have a new survey done. It's all here in the document. Tens of millions of dollars waiting to be mined.
And we own all of it.
To secure the sale, I offered a small profit-sharing arrangement, but that will amount to just a fraction of the returns.
My God. I hadn't thought to question the survey. This could be our salvation.
What do you mean?
We can leverage future copper earnings for the capital we need to prop up our stock. That should reassure the Merricks that we have the necessary funds to purchase their railway. I believe J.P. Morgan will respond to my telegram now.
Now, this is a little Deus Ex Machina right? This is all of George's problems literally were just solved on just the backs of future earnings of the copper mines, which may be in season 4, but history tells us Morenci, Arizona in general, like huge copper mine reserves. Like this isn't a false flag. This is going to be a thing that really does secure generational wealth for the Russells. These mines alone, no matter what George does, succeeds or doesn't wise with his railroads, these mines are going to make the Russells wealthy in perpetuity. At the end of the day, does it diminish all of George's storylines, especially the last 3, now and be like, we've just waved the wand and it's just solved? This is the problem with resolution of storylines, right? Because sometimes you get resolved and you're like, oh, I don't know, was that satisfying? Like, I guess, but does that, because he allows you maybe to go on to other things, but I don't know. This literally just clears it all up.
Well, I'm going to go with this, though. I'm going to go with that George plays with such extremes. So it's like he's playing with like his entire fortune, and then the money amount is like insane in Morenci from the mines. So it's like, yes, it is like a huge payoff, and it does seem like a big like, oh, well, that's a good solution. But he also, and like I'm doing that with an eye roll, like, oh, okay, you just solved everything. But they did have him have an entire season of him like really trying to go all in. Like, I mean, he put in everything. So there had to be like a really huge payoff to balance it. So that's why I don't have as much an issue with it. It's not, if he didn't have enough collateral on the other side where it didn't feel like he was freaking out, he had to freak out at this level to make this be like, okay, it's all fixed now. He had to be worried enough about it.
Which they certainly showed. And I think why this? Because maybe this hasn't actually, at the end of the day, isn't...
It won't be the last thing he tries to do.
It's not the last thing, but it's actually not the point of George's story, I think, at the end of the day.
Ooh, I'm curious what the point of his story will be.
Because you need this for George then to gloat to Clay. Mm-hmm. And you need that in order for this episode's cliffhanger to occur, which you have to imagine will propel forward and have reverberations. So you need George to win here, so then George can smite enemies. Mm-hmm. Let's listen to George taking his victory lap here with Clay and Sage.
Unless, of course, the mines on the land contain tens of millions of dollars of untapped copper deposits, which you, apparently, overlooked.
That's impossible.
These are the very same mines, I assure you. I just had a better man looking at them. My son. The deal with the Merricks is done. And so is any further business I might have with you.
What a fool to have missed something like that. You are of no further use to me.
You picked the wrong horse, Clay. You failed me and we parted. But why did you make me your enemy? How could you believe you'd win?
Your son got lucky.
Luck had nothing to do with it. My son made an opportunity where there was none before. Because that's what great men do. I'm glad it played out the way it did. Not least because I learned your true character.
I'm no different from the rest of the men in our industry. Trust no one was always your motto.
You are different. Because from today, you are no longer in any industry. And you're finished in New York. Of course, you could always try for a job at my Pittsburgh mills, amongst the workers you wanted me to shoot.
I won't die away that easily, Mr. Russell. I'm like a cockroach with 1,000 lives.
What the hell, Clay?
I mean, that's some ominous Clay shit right there.
I know. I didn't expect him to compare himself to a cockroach. Like, that's Clay. What is up?
Well, they say nuclear war, right? Twinkies and cockroaches. Those are things that are going to survive.
Sure.
And Clay.
Sure.
George makes a fair point here.
Wait, I have a question. So do you think that they should have, like, scuzzied Clay up a little more in the seasons prior to this or something? Because, I mean, this is he's even calling himself a cockroach. Like, there's something about his character that, like, feels a little bit like if you were going to try to play him as, like, a guy who would be vengeful and a guy who would do all these kinds of things that go behind George's back and do all this stuff, it feels like, should he have been, a little bit of dirt on him earlier than now.
I think they tried to show that in season 2. I think you look back at season 2 because this is where he really starts to question George's motives and George's decisions. And there's a point in season 2, rewatch it, where there's a feeling that Clay maybe is going to side with Jay Gould and everyone else who's against George. And he really questions him about the union and then even stepping in and keeping them from getting shot and stuff. Clay was fine for those workers to get killed.
Right.
So I think
that's the dirt on
the
him.
wedge, I think the wedge between Clay and George didn't start the season. I think it started then.
That's true.
Because until then, I don't think Clay ever inwardly, clearly had his own thoughts on things. I think that's the first time Clay ever outwardly, audibly questioned George. And I think for George, that's unacceptable. I think anything else other than non-committal questions is unacceptable. Any kind of question of George's policies to George that reek of even a hint of you're doing it wrong, right? There's different kinds of questions. I don't understand why you're doing this, and I think you're wrong in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Clay was flirting with or outwardly saying, I think you're doing this wrong in the union strikes. So I think everything we're getting here in episode 7 of season 3 began in season 2. I think this was just I think that once that schism opened, I think it just widened and widened because season 3 until Clay is fired is all Clay either ignoring George's orders haphazardly or weakly trying quote unquote to execute his orders, or outwardly saying, you're fucking this up. You're going to ruin all of us.
Why do we think that Clay was so certain that Morency was a bad deal? Like, why do we think that he was, like, for somebody who had been working with George for, we assume, kind of a while?
I think.
No, I know, but, like, why wouldn't he have done the survey properly? Like, what would have been, I mean, so you're just saying he just wanted to get out of, like, what he would consider, like, primitive pioneer life out there, and he just wanted to be back in the city, and he didn't want to be pursuing.
I think he says that. I would have
there.
to pull the clip, but I think he says something like, "We should be building empires in not skyscrapers, but he's like, we should be building empires in New York. Forget Arizona. What are we doing out here?"
Okay.
He says something along those lines in episodes 1 or 2. So I think he probably. This is the quote unquote trying to execute George's orders. He had a survey done. In theory, maybe like have a guy go look around and lift a couple rocks and see if there's copper there. Oh, that's a survey. They're worthless. This was the week. And then George leaves him there because he has to go back and save the bank, the Metropolitan Bank. So he leaves Clay out there to then flounder in the dirt. And Clay's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I miss New York.
But what I'm thinking is, Clay makes a cut of the money, I assume. I assume this is all like percentage commission-y kind of based. And so
I don't think he believed in the railroad. So the idea
but he didn't believe in the railroad, and he didn't believe in the mines, and he didn't believe in like sort of investing in the West, and like it was like, Clay, like, what the hell? Like,
well, for him, I think it was the miners want too much money for this land.
Right.
Not worth it. The mines aren't worth anything. I don't even want to think about mines. We don't have mines in New York. Mm-hmm. You have to go to like Pennsylvania before you start getting to mine country. Like, from Clay's point of view. Uh-huh. And he's just like, no. And he's like, I want to build railroads where there are cities. Like, I'm willing to build a railroad to, like, St. Louis.
Or, like, Chicago or something.
For Chicago, where there already are. Like, he wants to stay in civilization. So I think he believes in the railroads as long as it doesn't come with dust and dirt.
Oh, okay.
And miners. These are all dirty words.
I could have used a scene or two then of him being a little bit.
I think they were relying on Patrick Page's face acting. I think if you go back and watch the scene, watch his face acting.
Okay.
It's very nose turned up.
Well, cause I was gonna say, like, I could have used cause you know the move. He comes in the saloon and rather than sit down, he takes out like his handkerchief and like wipes the seat. Like, that's a move that I could see him do.
I think he's doing stuff like that because remember they have the scene where he's like, you're gonna get these mines. Go get me a cab back to the train station to New York. And then George kicks back with the go-between that they have, and the guy throws the bottle at the dartboard.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's having a good day kind of thing. I think Clay would have been like...
No, he was super pissed.
He was everything about that whole thing. George kind of like
low class. And,
right.
Yeah.
Because George was low class and built himself from nothing. We don't know about Richard Clay, but my guess is...
he was
always wealthy from a wealthy family who then hitched himself to George on his meteoric rise. Mm-hmm. So I think George at least can still laugh at those low-class things, even if he doesn't partake in it in himself. I think the whole thing revolts Clay.
Yeah.
And again, I think go back and watch. I think Clay's face, there's like disgust in all of those lines.
And he was. I mean, he's
Even when
definitely
JPM
grossed out to be in the saloon, like, generally. He didn't even want to be in there. And you guys listeners, I want to be super clear. Mike and I are not using words like low class. Like, we're not saying that. We're saying that we feel that Clay was viewing it, like, from a classist point of view. And, like, being like, this is not the people I want to hang out with.
George used something like yokels. He uses some like pejorative term for the miners also. He also thinks it's beneath him. But he sees the land as important to his plan. He's got vision. This is a question of vision, right? This was in 1923. This is the bad guy in 1923 telling Banner, like, you lack vision. You can't see the snow hill becoming a first-class ski resort because you lack vision.
Right.
Clay lacks vision as far as George is concerned. I think ultimately is the reason for the parting of their ways, because Clay just sees banking and New York and railways and civilization, quote unquote, high society, high wealth. There's no wealth there as far as Clay. Clay doesn't even want to look for wealth in Morenci, Arizona.
I feel like they should have given us a moment though. Then, does Clay have a wife? Does Clay have, like, is he in society? Is he a part of society if he works for George? Like, is that a thing? Like, are you like,
he gets to invite,
do you get to go to the opera? Do you get to, like,
he probably does. Maybe not his wife. Maybe in the same tickets that, like, Mrs. Bruce and Borden got. Maybe Clay and his wife go into those, or better seats, maybe.
You think like
or
that?
Maybe as a guest in the box, kind of the way Marion is.
Right.
Probably doesn't have his own box though. He gets access to society via George and via Risley Sage. Mm-hmm. But he himself is just the aide de camp or secretary, like, probably doesn't get access on his own. But which is not to say he's not wealthy. I'm sure he's decently wealthy, but he's obviously not. He's, he's off the scraps of George Russell and Risley Sage wealthy. You know, what they throw out of their pockets is more than we'll ever see.
Right.
And Clay's just like, So again, table setting, right? Cockroach lives 1,000 lives. Cockroach is backed against the quarter. They scurry in the daylight. And George, I think, has a fair point here of, I would have just left you alone. Like, you failed me. We disagreed. We parted ways. I wasn't going to come for you. I wasn't even thinking about you anymore. Like, I was pivoting to how I can get my mines done, my Morenci land done.
Do you feel like Clay, like, made the move that Clay needed to make in order to still have a job and still have, like, a career?
He had to. I think these were the thing.
This was his only move. I mean, because that's a
probably
question
not
mark,
his only
right?
move. It's probably, guess is, there's a lot of wealthy men, there's a lot of wealthy bankers at this time.
Go work for somebody else.
Probably not his only move, but Risley Sage, knowing George's plans for the Illinois Central, Risley Sage, he knows is going to be important to that conversation. You see why Risley Sage would want to take Clay on for exactly the advice that he gives him. I know where all the bodies are buried. Mm-hmm. And he's true. He does. And he does give George a run. And he does scare George on the brink of ruin. And yes, Clay says Larry got lucky. And George is like, no, he made opportunity where there is none. But also, he did get a little bit lucky. He could have had a proper survey done, and those mines could be empty.
Right.
A proper survey could have been like, but maybe Larry still does what his father said and does get the deal done somehow. Because the profit sharing deal that Larry makes, that was on the table in episode 1. Someone says, even if you sell back like a profit sharing, I think George says that to Clay as an option, which Clay clearly doesn't do.
Yeah.
Because Clay didn't give a shit. He wanted to be done with this. And
what a strange.
It's a passive aggressive, like, this is just a phase George is going through. And like, I don't really need to seal this deal. We'll figure it out another way. But this isn't it. I think Clay is influencing the game the way Clay is able to within his station.
You know what? In like a weird way, I feel like if you were like writing this into like a much, 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 much larger, longer story, I would have made like Clay and George like childhood friends or something, because their relationship is complex, like, and it's much more than just employer employee.
There's emotion here. There's
like,
hurt.
There's a lot going on here that like I'm making up my own backstory. Like, they knew each other back, and there was some sort of like debt to one another or something at some point. Like, I'm making up a whole story.
But you're not wrong though, because guys, go back and listen. You can't pick it up listening to the clip. But once Risley Sage says, you're a fool for missing that and you have no use to me, and he leaves, now it's just George and Clay. Clay kind of grabs at his chest almost and sits down to look at the Mines report, but it's almost like, I don't think he's not doing like a Red Fox, like, this is the big one, I'm coming home to you, but like, he's kind of like feeling it. Now, this is twice that he's being humiliated at George's hands or because of George, the way he sees it.
Yeah.
But George, they do this close-up, Caroline, of him lighting the cigar.
Yes.
I thought for sure Clay was going to throw the fire on George, just because we were seeing so much focus on it. I thought there was going to be violence committed here because of the close-up of the lighting of the cigar. I thought for sure someone was going to get burned or something.
Well, there's a couple choices made directorially in this one that makes it far more like, I would say, it sounds silly, but I want to say it's shot, there's certain scenes that are shot more like an action movie, which is a funny thing to say in this Gilded Age series, because this is not a series that is an action show like that. But there was a couple of things where they did the close up and they had like the special effect of like the fire and the
muzzle fire.
Much more amped up. In an exciting way. And I think that's why they got season 4. In all honesty, is because if you looked at season 1 action versus like this season's action, we had a lot of like moments here of people freaking out, yelling, screaming, all kinds of things. Very dramatic.
I feel like I should go back and rewatch episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6 of season 1. Those are the episodes that Sally Richardson Whitfield had directed.
Yeah.
I'm curious if this style that we're seeing this episode is present in those episodes at any point. I have to go back and see what they were about.
Well, listeners, we invite you guys to do that too. And if you guys have any comments, definitely let us know. You can hit us up over at podclubhouse.com or over on Facebook. You can join the Facebook group again, or join Pod Clubhouse on Facebook. You can definitely chit chat with us there.
Let's finish, George. So just setting, again, table setting, right? With this penultimate episode. Jones, the secretary, assistant, whatever, comes in, tells George the cab is waiting outside to take him from his office. That's where they are, to the Union Club. And that's where he's living. All right. So we know there's a cab outside waiting to take George's body. This messenger comes in, kills Jones, presumably. He shoots him very point blank and Jones crumbles, then cocks the gun and then fires. Screen focuses in on the muzzle fire, right? The bullet coming out of the gun, the muzzle fire, and then cuts to black. He's very close point to George. You have to assume George is about to be shot. There is a cab waiting outside. Table set for the finale. George live or die. This is an episode made before the season 4 renewal was given. There's a story here where Bertha takes over the family. Maybe you don't need George to continue to be alive at the end of season 3.
Well, maybe Larry can lead their house.
Maybe Larry in his newfound victory here. Maybe because his personal life is such a shit show, but maybe he could be victorious in business and lead his family through troubled times at his father's death.
It kind of moves Bertha to
Or maybe they missed it. Maybe the guy's a moron and Larry beats him with a briefcase and he misses George completely. I don't know, but the table is set. Checkmark number 2.
Right.
Table set for the finale. Let's go across the pond to Duke and Gladys, because we took a huge leap in this. This was a very minor part of the episode in the overall scheme of this episode. But for the Duke and Hector and Gladys, I think it was actually...
The Duke and the Hector?
The Duke and the Hector. The Duke and the Hector.
The Duke equals Hector.
Yes. I think for Hector and Gladys, I think it was actually an extremely important episode.
Oh, I thought it was wonderful. I thought we were finally getting some little cracks for them to like show a little of emotion and some personality and everything. I really loved how Hector actually remembered Gladys's opera dress that she wore.
Yeah.
That was a surprise.
And that the colors of the garden remind him of her
Yes, like how
very
sweet.
romantic.
That was very kind. And again, showed that like way back when, even when Gladys wasn't clued into this whole thing in the way that she should have been, even then he was looking at her in a much more romantic, not gross money transactional kind of way, but noticing what she was going to wear. And I think that's especially telling because if you remember, there's a line with Bertha when she's talking about Monica's dress and she said, oh, well, the Duke is a man. They won't notice the dress anyway. Mm-hmm. And so funny then to have that come circle back and have it be like, he did remember her dress and he even could compare the colors to the garden. Like he has more inside of him. This is what I was hoping for the whole time, was that I was surprised that Bertha did not allow any room in the conversation for the idea that Hector might just be an okay guy. He might not be horrible and they might actually be able to get along. So I'm really happy for that. Were you surprised that Hector turned out to be a little bit romantic and that they had more sort of mushy moments together?
Yes, but even more than that, and I'm going to play this clip. It's the only clip we're going to play for these two. But me about Hector after this episode is more than just the callback to the dress, which I was very impressed at, or the flowers he has put in her vase, which she very sweetly smells after he leaves the room, or them holding hands, very unified when they're talking to Sarah about how she has to go maybe get her own place in London, and Gladys saying, because we want you to have fun. Like, you don't want to following us around doing our dinner orders and such. Like, very unified team, but there's an important thing here because it really goes to the entire point of Hector and Gladys's marriage.
When she was here, your mother told me you had good instincts and a good brain. Did you know that?
She's my mother. What else would she say?
I know you think I give in to Sarah too much.
What I think is that you don't allow yourself to be the man you really are inside.
But is the inner man any more interesting than the outer one?
You're wrong. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. When I go round with Forrester, it's not Sarah they want to talk about. It's you. If you could only learn to trust your instincts, you'd do wonderful things here.
Well, I shall have to consider that when I'm changing. I meant it when I said not to worry about your father's money. The money doesn't matter. But you do.
Well, I think it does matter. But thank you.
The money doesn't matter? He says it like 3 or 4 times in this episode, in addition to Sarah, and he's talking to Sarah before Gladys even knows that clearly George has written him and says, the money is going to be late this month and maybe there will be no money at all. That's the setup. He's telling Lady Sarah before he even tells Gladys, and Lady Sarah is like, well, what do we do with her? We just ship her back? And he's like, what if I don't want to give her back or ship her back? And then goes on to tell Gladys, and 3 times, I think 4 times, different ways he says, the money doesn't matter. Only we matter.
Or only you matter.
And only you matter. And then holding hands and stuff and being a really unified force. Fam, Gilded Age fam, like, how are we feeling about all the Hector and this is a love match? Did this turn into a love match? And if so, does that right all of the sins of Bertha at the end of the day? Because remember, we all laughed when she said, when she arrives in England and she's like, does she always pick your dresses? She's like, mother, you wanted me to be a duchess. Don't pretend like you wanted me to be happy now. And Bertha's like, of course I wanted you to be happy, but I also really wanted you to be a duchess. And like, no one believes her when she's
Anna Kendrick, like, oh, I wanted you to be a duchess.
Anna Delvey?
No, Anna Kendrick. She does this thing about Gogglebox. She does this like impression of the host from Gogglebox, and she's like, I'm very tired of my bags. You guys have to listen to it on Grant Norton.
Completely independently. Anyway, but no one believes, I think I openly laughed at Bertha when she said, I want you to be happy. No one believes her. Literally this episode, she says, we know what you're capable of. Not Gladys, but Larry and George. So no one believes Bertha when she says, I want Gladys to be happy. But here, by gosh, Gladys seems to be kind of happy.
Well, it's not simple. It's not straightforward. I mean, she is having
to help make happiness.
Things are happening. Well, Bertha came and waved her magic wand around there and sprinkled some pixie dust on everybody and, kind of wilted Lady Sarah and definitely emboldened Hector and Gladys. And so I'm very excited for them. I'm very hopeful for Gladys. It's really nice to see her kind of settling into herself. Like when she's holding hands with Hector and she's talking with Lady Sarah, that's a grown woman standing there talking. And that's something that we have not had a lot of with Miss Gladys. So when she's standing there talking, she's talking like head of house. She's talking like Bertha's daughter. And that made me very proud of her. And she did do what she needed to do. She talked to Hector. She stroked his ego. She talked to him. She was encouraging him, praising him. I loved the whole tact of having the townspeople as like the reason, like, oh, they want to talk about you, Hector, and they don't care about, like,
and she
Sarah.
knows because she's been going around doing the work with talking to the tenants and the farmers.
Super proud of her, like super proud. You guys know we are hard on Gladys, but when she does something right, I'm going to be right here to say you did it, girl, and that was the right thing to do.
But here's the thing. I think we have learned more about who Gladys Russell is in the last 2 episodes than we had learned about who she was in 2.5 seasons that came before it.
But
and so now what happens? We're less harsh on her because we have an idea of her motivations and who she is as a person, as a more well-rounded person. This is a grown woman we're seeing here doing grown woman things, grown married woman things, and it makes sense.
And to me, though, I don't actually think that this part was like a out of nowhere kind of thing. Like for 2.5 seasons, correct, we have not seen her like step into these shoes, but it actually felt earned in a lot of ways. Like when she did take Hector's hand and she did speak directly, or even going back and the conversation about the dinner and being like, oh, are you sick? Or like, what's your deal? You know, taking her to task and actually speaking up for herself. Like, this is Gladys. But I think it's not just the audience who is finding her to finally become a woman. I think Gladys is actually, it's happening in front of us. Like, it is what is happening to Gladys. So we're not just finally appreciating her. She's finally appreciating herself and like coming around to who she is.
So very exciting. I mean, they announced to Lady Sarah that, you know, you need to go start looking for your own place in London, not even be at our London house. Go find your own place in London because we want you to have fun, so you get the fuck out of our lives. But they're headed to the ball. So they're about to get on a ship, table set. Mm-hmm. The Duke and Duchess are returning to New York and Newport for the ball. Table set. Check mark. Bing. We got to talk about Marion. We're going to talk about the Van Ryns. We're going to talk about Peggy. We're going to be done. Let's start with Marion's conversation with Peggy, where, again, this is, you know, there's that clip where, like, God abandoned me. And then, but no, God sent, you know, it's a flood. He goes
like
to the top of the house. He's like, I sent you a helicopter. I sent you a boat. And like, you kept saying you're waiting for God. People keep telling Marion, or at least Ada and Peggy keep telling her, you need to have a conversation with this guy. You can't just willy-nilly. And Peggy's going to say, like, you live across the street from him. Like, what's the game plan here? Think, woman, think. But let's listen to Peggy, try to talk a little sense to Marion.
What about you and Mr. Russell?
There is nothing to be done there.
Are you really sure you can't find it in your heart to forgive him?
Not if that's who he is.
We have all done things that we regret.
Are you referring to Mr. Fortune?
I'm not referring to anything specific.
What happened between the two of you was quite different.
Only because I explained it to you. Don't you think you owe him a conversation at the very least?
It's better if we don't talk. I would only say something harsh.
Well, you can't avoid him forever. He lives right across the street.
It's not good TV to have her just not talk to him and like smooth things over on the inside for herself before going to go talk to him. But
there's no smoothing over. She's as raw in this episode as she was.
Wow, you're coming right out of the gate. I wasn't quite done yet. I was just saying that, like, it doesn't make good TV to do what I think a realistic response would be, which is just give me some time. Give me a little bit of time for this sting to wear off. Give me a minute to the fact that you just showed back up in town. Like, I didn't know when you were coming back, and now you're back, and it just happened in an instant, and I'm not ready to deal with you yet. So it doesn't make good TV to have her do what is realistically her response. And so instead we have to get this sort of haphazard, I have to avoid him, or I just can't talk to him at all because I'm just going to say something harsh. I mean,
but here's the thing.
Say the harsh thing then, but like, say it. Get out here.
Here's the question. And this isn't a Marion question. This is a TV show question. Are they doing harm to Marion, the character? Are they opening her up to the point where Louisa Jacobson has to go on her Instagram story and note all of the angry people who can't get over, and so they have to take to the internet to complain about Marion's character? Are they doing her a disservice by having her react this way? Because Marion is a kind, loving person. She has trust issues. She will say out loud to Ada in this next clip we're going to play, every man has failed me. But we don't hear any of that when she's telling Peggy, it's just better if I don't talk to him. None of that. All of that motivation, it just makes her seem unreasonable.
Okay, let's go back to a real life statistic here. Okay, so we're a modern audience who is judging someone from the 1880s. Okay, so again, we have to remember we are of a different age. Now, if 80% of men have been to strip joints, and we are the audience, okay, we're the modern day audience, and 80% of men have been to strip joints, that means that plenty of those men are probably in relationships, which means that women who are watching this show either don't know that their men are going to strip joints, maybe do and put up with it, and so therefore they're not going to look at Marion in a good light. They're going to be like, what's wrong with me? My husband goes, my boyfriend goes to strip joints. Who cares? Right? If 80% go, then there's a lot of women out here that are being okay with that. And so if you're an audience member and you are okay with your partner going to whatever type of place like this, maybe you don't appreciate a character who's judgy McJudgerson about this whole thing. So I don't know. I'm wondering if that could come into play here.
Right. My issue with Marion is not her anger. I think she's not angry enough. My entirety of my problem with the Marion storyline right now is her actively insisting on not having a conversation, because we learn the letter didn't say what the issue is. So now you have broken off a relationship for no reason that anyone can discern other than what's in your head. That's doing a disservice to Marion. She should be like, I can't wait till that motherfucker gets back. And I'm going to tell him which she does finally in this episode, but it doesn't come until like the second third of the episode.
Yeah.
Until it happens.
But do you get what I'm saying about why maybe the audience is actually not taking Marion very well at all?
I think a strong woman who stands up for herself and then just doesn't accept her lying fiance going to a strip club in a house of ill repute, more than a strip club. This is a prostitution house. Yeah. They're not stripping. They're fucking. Like, they're doing drugs. Whoa. This isn't a strip club. This isn't the bada bing.
You're right. I don't know what you just said, but,
from The Sopranos, the bada bing. It's like
the bada bing. I thought you said the bottoming. I was like, the bottoming. What the hell is that? Club. But you see what I'm saying though? Like, if there's people in the audience though that are like fine with this, then Marion looks like a fool. You know? And so it doesn't, like, you can't relate at all to her. And I'm wondering if that's just like a modern take on Marion. Like this woman doesn't get to be this unreasonable or this upset. And you can see by what Louisa Jacobson says. She's like, oh, it bothers you when a woman doesn't enjoy you to go to a prostitution house? Because that's what's expected of us. We're supposed to be the cool girls. Right. Who all think 80% of men, that's cool.
That's the friend, right? The friend who goes off the prostitute in the Haymarket. He was like, this won't be the last time I'm here.
Yeah, horrible.
Like, this is just understood that I come to the Haymarket on Tuesdays.
And I don't want to be a jerk because you guys, I'm not trying to judge anybody who goes to strip joints or whatever. If that's what you choose to do for your free time, go for it.
I'm judging the people who are lying about it.
I'm judging the people who are deceiving partners in any way. I think that is a very bad idea.
I have never had a problem with Larry doing this if he had told her the truth. I think it's gross. It's not for me to do, but I get him going there for his friends, whatever. And it turned out he didn't do anything. He does take Jack, which he probably takes Jack as cover to not have to do anything and not feel any pressure to do anything, honestly.
That's the kind of stuff you tell her, though.
But you tell her that. You'd be like, I've got to go to this thing. I'm taking Jack. He's my wingman. We're going to have a drink. We're going to leave.
Supervision.
Right. That's how grown-ass men deal with their business. And partners should deal with their partners. Be truthful.
I'm going to even say a grown-ass man who's not comfortable being at the Haymarket tells his grown-ass friend, I'm not comfortable being here, friend. Let's go to another place.
Right.
I just got engaged today. Let's go somewhere else.
Sleep with our partners.
Well, they can't do that. They're not married, so they can't sleep together. But it's a whole freaking thing. They can't marry and Larry. What? They have to mooch in the little alleyway. That's all they get if they're fun.
They do stuff.
No. But listen, you guys, I really, honestly, I have compassion for Marion. I think of the time in the 1880s when they, again, we started this whole thing talking about a theme of the homosexuality with Oscar and everything, like remembering that there's like so many things that are happening in society that everybody has to be really quiet about and all this stuff. This is a very big deal for Marion that it's like something that she feels like is very beneath her world is like in her face.
And also she has this sort of Damocles third strike. Mm-hmm. She has to get Larry right or not go any further. She can't fuck it up.
Ada at the end.
Great transition. Let's talk about Ada, where Marion oversteps and is a little bit offensive to her old Aunt Ada.
He'll only accept it from you, I'm afraid. And even then, he doesn't want it back. He only wants you.
If he wanted me, what was he doing at that place?
Speak to him. Married couples discuss difficult things.
But we are not, nor will we ever be married.
Marion, please. Don't make this decision out of ignorance and fear.
Larry has opened up a Pandora's box of ignorance and fear. Things that never even entered my mind before I learned where he went and what he did. And right now, I trust Aunt Agnes's judgment better than my own, and what she said about men revealing themselves is true. Every single man in my life has failed me. If it weren't for you and Aunt Agnes, I would have nothing.
That's true. But not truth in the absolute sense.
I'd be better off as a spinster. That way I won't get hurt.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
But
there is a profound loneliness in the life of a spinster. It hurts whenever you see couples together. You mask the pain with a smile, but you don't deceive yourself. This is nothing you want, I can assure you.
Marion goes to her there and tries to apologize and take it back. Because, man, what a fucking tactless comment. But and Ada doesn't let her. She pushes her hands away and she softens and says, just don't put yourself in this position. I want you to be happy. And that's good on Ada. She didn't owe Marion there. Marion, I get Marion's hurt. I get Marion's angry, but you took a shot right at your aunt's head.
This episode had a lot of these stinger moments, like having Ward say, like, old lady, sad old lady to Mrs. Astor, having Ada be the spinster comment thrown at her. Like, I mean, yay. I mean, this is a lot of painful things that are being said to people. This episode is so much more extreme.
Yeah. I want to focus on Ada's comment of married couples discuss difficult things. Because Marion says we aren't married and we never will be married, but I think that misses the point. I think people in relationship discuss difficult things. If you're in a real relationship, you have to be able to discuss difficult things or you're not in a real relationship.
Yeah, 100%.
Not in a healthy one, anyway.
No. And I mean, I wonder very much if many of these weddings / marriages, and I'm going to really say marriages, are just doomed because of the way that the whole dating world is set up and the idea that they don't actually get a chance to get to know each other and they can't actually have conversations because they're doing all this like running around, like they have to stay in public for one and that's all weird, or you have to have like a, like some sort of chaperone or something. So like, I feel like people don't get to know each other at all. They don't get a chance to have, like when you say relationships, like I don't think they really get to have a relationship. It's like you're single and you're married. Even when Bertha said, like, we don't want Gladys and Hector to be around each other, spend time with each other. And it's like, this must be very difficult because how do you communicate? How do you have these open lines of communication and have these, I have to be pure as the snow. We can't be seen together. We can't be around each other. We can't.
I agree with you, but they also have plenty of private times.
I think they
Marion
do.
is spending a lot of time after dinner hours in that parlor with Larry. Like,
you think?
Yeah, she's there all the time. I mean, before he goes to Morenci, they're basically at the house every day for dinner. She's at the Russells' house
but you
all
can't,
the
like,
time.
But you can't, like, talk to each other.
When they're together, like in a conversation where Frenchie walks in on the kissing, presumably they could have been talking to each other.
They could have been talking.
They get their stowaway moment in the stair where he just wants to mooch on her, but like he should be talking. Like they do find time to do it. And it's frustrating that Charlotte Astor's story went the way it did because she was someone who was allowed to marry for love. Mm-hmm. That was not an arranged marriage, which Lena reminds her of. We allowed you to go be with James. So it sounds like she was able to develop and court with James in a non-arranged way, a way for love.
Maybe, but I don't.
But look how
you
it
can't
went
know that.
But you can though. But that's
but you can't know that they. I mean, it could have all been chaperoned to death, where they couldn't even.
But it wasn't an arranged marriage though. So it was. It was a love match marriage because we know that because Marion knows it. And Marion says it to Gladys, and Lena brings it up to Charlotte. Like we should have put you with someone better for society, but we let you be with James.
Agreed.
And look where it wound up. So it's like the one example that maybe we would have.
Didn't go well.
Didn't work out great. It didn't.
Even look at Aurora.
Led to an aborted duel.
Well, and Aurora and Charles, I think, was also like they didn't seem like they were arranged. I'm not clear about that.
Maybe. I mean, she's from the Van Ryn family,
but
so
they
maybe
had more. They at least at the beginning they had more rapport with one another.
I feel like we need to know more. About
we do. I need to know what's going on with Charles. What happened with you, dude?
So the married couples discuss difficult things really resonated for me because, and maybe that's a 2025 lens. Maybe you're right. Maybe in 1884, you didn't get to really have deep conversations to discuss difficult things until you're already married.
You're
right?
not allowed any intimacy.
But
That's
in
what I'm trying to
2025,
say.
I want to say on the record, in 2025, people in relationships should be able to discuss difficult things.
Yes, for sure.
If you're all left there listening and you can't discuss difficult things with your partner, I'm just saying, maybe take a look and
you can write into Pod Clubhouse and we'll talk with you.
We'll discuss difficult things with you. We love it.
You can listen to our podcast and we'll talk about difficult things.
We have a lot of free time
together.
So, nothing but the free time to talk to you guys. All right, so Larry finally does track Marion down. Now, before I play the clip, I just want threshold question out there.
Okay.
Is it too much for him? Because this is a trope I feel like we see in TV. I don't know if this ever actually happens in the real world, but I feel like in TV, the guy goes, or the person goes to the other person's place of work to finally, we're having this conversation.
Yes.
Is it fair for him to do that to her here? Or did he really have no choice because otherwise she was never going to talk to him?
Well, it's never fair. This is done all the time. This is a very cliche move. I mean,
it is.
You know what?
But it's always a good question though. But
back?
Is it justified here? Because he says, I had to come here because I'm banned from your house.
Here's what I'm thinking about. Do you remember the scene from Parenthood when Rick Moranis
But
comes to her work?
he sings to her.
He sings in front of her whole class, though,
yeah.
And it's so. I mean, it ends up being very cute and everything. But yeah, I think it's always the last move in a movie or a TV show, right? You won't see me at your house. You're keeping me away from everybody. No one will talk to me. So I knew you had to come to work. So yeah, it's just cliche, right? Just always happens.
At least he waits before the class starts to do it.
That's true, and leaves politely when students come in. Doesn't drag it out in front of everybody or anything.
He does not sing, unfortunately.
I do need to find out what I did that was so awful.
Very well. I learned that on the night we became engaged, you went out to celebrate at a house of ill repute.
That is not true.
Please don't make it worse.
I went out with friends.
To a disorderly house.
To a club for young men where entertainments are arranged that are perhaps not the most respectable. But that's it. Nothing happened.
You're making a fool of me now. I know what goes on at those places. I am a lady, but I am not an idiot.
I only had a drink. You have to believe me.
Why? When you've already lied. You told me you were going to Delmonico's.
Yes, I did say that, which was not honest. The only reason I didn't tell you my true whereabouts was because I was afraid you'd think what you're thinking now.
So you want me to spend my life with a man who will not tell me the truth if it is inconvenient?
It was wrong not to tell you from the start. I see that now.
Or do you only say that because your lie has been found out?
That's the age-old question, right? Are you apologizing because you're actually sorry or because you got caught?
Yeah. That's one of the many problems with lying. Are you
age-old?
Are you doing it? Do you really mean that? Or is it just because you got caught? And of course, we hit on it at the beginning of the episode, but we cannot stress how bad a reasoning it is that Larry gives.
Here's my other thing.
I'm lying for your benefit.
Yes, and the whole okay, I also really,
don't overlook that.
We
can't overlook that. Listeners, do not overlook that. That's a shit statement on Larry's part.
I really dislike the whole concept of I went to this place where bad things happen.
A gentleman's club.
But I didn't do anything.
Right.
Why do you go to the bad place? Audience members, I will ask all of you guys. If you are somebody who chooses to go to someplace that your partner or your spouse or whatever doesn't like, but you don't do anything, what is the point of what you're doing? Why are you doing this?
My bros are going, woman.
Go to another bar.
I ain't no beta. My bros are going.
There must be something else to do
Delmonico's
with your
gives me
time.
food poisoning. I got to go to the Haymarket.
It's just the dumbest excuse to me. I went to a strip joint to do nothing. I went to a sex worker house.
Even his recharacterization is insulting.
Have a
she's
drink?
She's like, you went to a disorderly house. Not true. I know what goes on there. It's a club for young men.
That was disgusting.
That's astronomer level PR spin.
It's embarrassing.
Two co-workers at a musical event for
where
team
people
building,
were playing music.
team building event for husbands hugs.
For hugs, right?
Come on, Larry.
It's stupid.
He's doing all of the bad guy explanation shit for when you get caught lying.
It's terrible.
It's so frustrating.
So how come so many people are mad at Marion and not mad at Larry?
That's an excellent question.
That is the question of the hour. Why did we spend so much time talking about whether Marion had an appropriate response and very little time about whether Larry made an appropriate choice?
Well, after this, Larry does leave. He doesn't continue to make a scene as the class is about to begin. We see Marion is actually with Jack. Jack makes his one appearance in this episode, and they're looking at new homes for him. He's probably staying at the Union Club. Or
he is.
But now, to be fair, the downstairs servants, Bannister, and everyone else, they actually gave him several hotel recommendations, which I think was funny, because some of them were recommendations nowhere near 61st Street, and I enjoyed that Bannister knows the hotels of New York. That's a whole thing. So he's looking at apartments, and Marion's with him, which I love that Marion went with him. She's really Team Jack and doing all the things. But the key info that comes out of that scene is that Jack finally tells Marion that Larry was with him the whole night. We had a drink, and then we both returned home to 61st Street. He says nothing untoward happened. Now, it's the first time Marion has gotten this piece of information. He says he's quite innocent, I promise. Now, here's the thing, and here's my worry.
Okay.
Is this going to put the onus on Marion becoming wrong now in this situation? Are we going to lose the thread that Larry lied, and now this is going to become about Marion made an assumption that was not true, and that Larry is the aggrieved party because he was quite innocent?
Oh, I mean, I think that is easily how it's going to get twisted, but I feel like, God, I want Marion to hold on to that thread of like, we would not be here. None of this would be happening had you A, not said Delmonico's, and B, bowed out of the friggin' bachelor party part. Like, just don't go to that part. Wasn't there dinner or something else? Like, skip one part of the evening, for God's sake.
This was my favorite theory I've seen come up on Reddit since the thing happened. It was, Larry didn't know they were going to the Haymarket.
No.
Larry really thought they were going to Delmonico's, went to Delmonico's, only find out that he was being taken to second location, the Haymarket, and was there unwittingly. This was a real theory that I saw someone write on Reddit.
Guys, you have to look at how comfortable Larry is when they're coming in and he's doing that Barnum Bailey,
it's the Moulin
business.
Rouge.
Yes.
Can.
And he's got his cigar and he's got his curly hair going like
Jack baby doll.
Yes.
It's Jamie Booby Becky.
It could be
Jack.
anything
It could be anything you want it to be.
I mean, come on.
It's not someone who's been there for the first time.
And that's
Plus,
not somebody who thinks that place is not a good place.
Plus, for this Reddit theorist, this episode conclusively out of Larry's own mouth says, I lied. We were never going to Delmonico's.
Yep.
They give you food poisoning. Table set. What happens with Larry? Check. Jack says, I'll take it. Now Jack has a home.
I'm excited for that.
What a great little detail, though, and Marion brings up, and as someone who is a decorator in your own right and a co-host of From Hollywood to Your Home with Beth Kushnick, how important is it for a bachelor? He probably does the equivalent of bed in a bag, like certain people we know.
100%.
Me. That this house is coming furnished. It was a very lovely home, and it's going to be there. How great for Jack. He doesn't have to worry about decorating a home. That's a real consideration.
No, it's a super big consideration.
My little decorator heart as a decorator in education and learning.
Yeah, you thought it was awesome?
I thought it was a great little comment to Marion's like, and it's already decorated.
Yeah.
What a great little nugget. We didn't need it, but I love that they threw it in.
I'm glad that Jack has his own place, and I am glad that it's already somewhat of a home, although I'll be interested to see if it's going to seem super empty and lonely despite being furnished.
Yes. I mean, I think it was a very funny thing. It's funny for us, the audience, and obviously to Jack when the realtor showing them, I don't know where they call realtors in 1884, I don't know. The person showing them the apartment says that there's room for minimal staff, and Jack listens because he was like, a week ago I was the staff. Yes. And so he finds it funny, this idea that this guy is talking about where you're going to keep your own staff in the home.
Right.
It's just like, look how far, the American dream.
He's doing it. Jack did it, you guys. We have been sitting here for 3 seasons wondering, is Jack, remember all the, what's with the alarm clock storyline? Right. This is lame.
But then it occurred to us, remember, at that end of season 1 clip when him and Bridget are watching them across the street. He's like, he's going to be the American dream story. And he was. Let's talk about Agnes real quick.
Wait. So question, do you think we're 100% done with Jack? Is his story come to a close? Because it's like, he's done, or are we going to keep following him as a character, especially into, I mean, not only in the finale, like, I don't know if he's just done for this season, but, I mean, his storyline would have come to a happy, conclusive ending here if we didn't have season 4. Yeah.
No cliffhanger. This is full resolution.
But do we walk away from Jack? Are we done with Jack?
I think we're probably done with Jack.
There was a stripping away of the casting. Like, we do need to talk about that a little bit, you guys.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we shelve that for season
finale.
Let's
just talk real quick. Okay. So here's the deal. Like, part of the deal with production cost always comes down to when you're, like, stacking up guest stars and you have more and more people who you're adding and adding and adding, right? And so at some point you kind of have to do, like, a dump. And you can see that that's what's happening. Like, Nathan Lane has no need to come back. I think we're going to see some of these other characters like Jack. And we had it remember when Watson left in the one season, and obviously Miss Andre is going to be gone. Like, we're clearly, like, cutting staff
Adelheid
away.
Hasn't been seen, and maybe she returns to England, but
how
much do we actively stay in England to the point that we need to see the ladies maid?
Well, and in theory, Lady Sarah will be gone out of the picture, so she wouldn't. So you guys can see what they're doing. They're prepping for season 4.
As shows get older, they need to show their production cost. Shows need to get cheaper to make as they go on, not more expensive, in order to keep getting episodes. So I think we do see the willowing of the cast for sure. So, and this is perfect resolution. Now we know we have the mixer idea. Maybe there is a story if they want to bring in Jack in a guest starring just to peek in on him every now and then.
Yeah.
In a season 4, maybe that's where he is, or he opens up a premises or an invention shop maybe.
See, but I don't know if it's worth it to keep. You have to think about all this stuff. I don't know if it's
you get a guest star kind of thing. Like, if you look at the...
No, but hear me out. You also have to keep, like, his house and his whatever, like,
well,
you know what I
like
mean?
A set somewhere else. Or maybe he comes to Van Ryn house with standing set.
Yeah, like, there has to start being, like, something has to be cheaper.
We're not going to see... I would be surprised if we see Jack frequently in this home after this episode.
Right.
Maybe in the finale, because this is 7 and there is one more, so maybe there is the...
It makes sense to have one more, sure.
Right.
But
there is something nice about the idea of if Armstrong, not Armstrong, or maybe Armstrong, because she seems so shocked at him giving the money, or Bridget and that romance, or Mrs. Bauer and the mom vibe. Maybe all of them or some of them come to visit him in his home. There, as someone, if you've rooted for Jack and wanted to be a part of his American Dream story, having these people who were downstairs with you now come be with you upstairs in your home.
Right.
There's a nice bow tie.
I think that would be nice. They did that.
Maybe that's our wish for Jack. But I think probably not back for season 4. At least certainly not in a regular cast role. Maybe in a guest starring role. Agnes, I want to play this clip. We're going to actually start with a bit of Frances Watkins Harper's suffrage speech, just because I think it's a good speech. But the real point of this clip is actually the Agnes part, where Miss Foster from the New York Heritage Society finally corners her. And again, like many other storylines, just because the show keeps bringing it up, this is the 4th time we've now heard about the New York Heritage Society this season. I want to keep it on everyone's radar.
As I've said in the past, we are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity. And society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving a curse in its own soul. So let us continue to make progress for the vote and for equality together.
There is a real power in us all being together.
No, it's the only way this battle will be won.
If women can get the vote, then we shall have a voice in other matters as well.
I agree wholeheartedly, Mrs. Van Ryn.
Mrs. Forte, may I introduce you to someone?
Oh, yes, please.
Do we know each other?
Not really. I'm Mrs. Foster of the New York Heritage Society. I've written to you about the decision to name Livingston Manor after your ancestors who settled there.
Yes, of course. I'm terribly behind with my mail.
When Robert Livingston purchased his 95,000 acres in 1750, do you know where he lived?
No, I don't know exactly where, but I do know that later houses were built on what is now called the manor.
Your lineage is noteworthy.
You're very kind.
The Society is planning to celebrate New York's history soon, and we would really like your help.
Oh, well, I'm afraid I'm spoken for, but good luck with it, Mrs. Foster, if you'll excuse me.
Agnes is someone who has had people hound her for money for a lot of her life. Doesn't this woman seem like she's got more in store than just wanting money from Agnes, the way she's pursuing her.
It's hard to tell, but it's clear to me that Agnes should have a conversation. This is a
Everyone
theme.
needs to have a conversation.
Have a conversation and just find out what it is that she wants already. She is being awfully vague and just like bopping in, you know. Like,
well, she finally says,
tell us what's up.
We want, you know, we're going to celebrate New York's history. We want Agnes's help. That alone is someone who wants to be back in society. You think for Agnes, who has spent the entire season being aggrieved at being removed from society,
this would have seemed good.
At least see what more is involved here. It's not like they're going to hold a gun to your head to write a check, which you can't do anyway. So why not have the conversation? This woman literally came to your suffrage meeting at your house that your sister is hosting. Hear her out, man.
One thing I really liked about this clip was when Ada says there's a power in all of us coming together.
Yes.
I thought that was great. And I
feel that though in 2025 though?
Yeah, I do.
Is this a lost art though for women in particular who every day feel like rights are being eroded? Is this something that has been lost though?
That's a whole loaded thing. I'm not going to get into 90% of what you just asked, but what I will say is that I know statistically that women who spend a lot of time with other women live longer, have a higher quality of life. It's a big deal. Women being around other women is a big source of power. And I think that even when we go back to that beginning conversation that we had about having Mrs. Astor and Bertha and the Van Ryns and Mamie Fish, like all sitting together, like there was something so exciting even as an audience member to see those women all sitting together, just sitting together. They didn't even have to like open their mouths and say anything. And we were like sitting forward. Like, what are these women when you gather them together? Ooh, this is exciting, you know? And so I really am glad that I'm going to put that as my highlight for that conversation more than a lot of the other stuff. I feel like very good about the show continuously highlighting like women working together and gaining strength together.
And I think it does a credit to Agnes's character because she is a flawed character in so many ways that we don't agree with in modern living.
Sure.
And even in this time was the dying off way of doing things. The fact that she's a suffragette is a great feather in her cap as a character.
I agree.
Because it would be very easy for her to be, and this is a great segue because we're going to start talking about the Kirklands and Peggy, it would be very easy for her to have the same kind of position as Mrs. Kirkland of, we have what we need, and I'm not interested in any more rights being given out to others.
I want to go back to the information that we know that Ada and Agnes have made sure to sprinkle throughout the seasons, that their dad was a big proponent of not the school that happened to be for Black individuals, but also supporting women. Like they made it sound like they were supported as girls. Like this was a supportive household for everybody, which is great to know for Agnes and Ada, because that's not necessarily a household I thought that they grew up in, you know? And so like they really made it sound like they were brought up in a kind of progressive, everybody has rights kind of family.
It's such a sad whiplash too, because then you feel like that maybe growing up, Agnes and Ada had loving influences in their life, or maybe a loving father. Maybe we're reading too much into that, but maybe at least someone who was understanding, someone who wasn't cruel at a minimum.
At least for Agnes and Ada.
Right. For Agnes then to have to have gone into, by all we've ever heard, is very loveless, very cruel marriage, where his death was actually a blessing to Agnes and to Ada to really begin to live their lives after that point. What a whiplash for them, and what a commentary on the way the world has been, society as I have found it prior to the start of the show versus where things are now. Mm-hmm. And things are still very much the same for many people. Like, we just watched Gladys get married off to the Duke, but maybe that's not going to work out poorly. And maybe things are changing. Maybe other considerations will be at play instead of just making well-matched marriages. So, I want to go up to, speaking of maybe a marriage made in love and not out of match, Peggy and Dr. Kirkland to William. Just as a aside, is it just me, or do they keep putting these two in just the most beautiful places to have their conversation?
They certainly do. They have been given so much more leash to have these like alone times than anybody else. We never saw that for Marian. We never saw that for Gladys.
They're the roadmap to proper relationships.
Yeah, like Peggy actually has like a lot of time on her hands, it seems, to be able to go and hang out. And he has time on his hands. They seem like they actually have the space to grow this relationship. My big fear is Mrs. K, man. I just don't know what to think about her.
So Prospect Park is a real park in Brooklyn. So I like that they name dropped that that's where they were, because we learned from Peggy's friends that they were seen together in Prospect Park. I'm curious if they actually shot there, since they do shoot a lot on Long Island. But there was an interesting comment in here of William says to her, and he says as a compliment, about how much Peggy keeps on her schedule and how she gets it all done. And Peggy responds, "There's always going to be a place for you on my schedule," which is very sweet. But when I was writing up my notes, it occurred to me, I wonder if there's a little bit of Mrs. Kirkland poking around in the back of William's brain, where that comment, and it was a compliment, it was definitely a compliment the way he delivers it, but if there was some fishing going on there of, are you too busy to be my wife?
I think that is a really good read. I think that's exactly what's happening. I think he is kind of doing that, like, well, how would this work out? You know, like, how could this work? And you know what? To be fair, I'm glad that William didn't just dismiss his mother and her concerns completely out of hand. Like, I'm glad that he's taking a moment, because I'm all for standing up to your mom. And I do think that's like a huge important part about like having your own family and that type of thing. But I would not want to sit here and watch an episode of Dr. K yelling at Mrs. Kirkland. I don't really want to see William in her face. I don't want her to be like screamed at. Like, I don't want that for this family. So for me, I'm hopeful that whatever they can figure out here, whatever he needs to dig around for some information, obviously Ernestine and everything that she says to Mrs. K is going to become a huge freaking issue. And I am so sad for that. It is so unfair the way this is playing out.
Let's play 2 clips. This is going to be Leslie Uggams playing Ernestine Brown. You may know Leslie Uggams from her role in Deadpool as the very funny blind owl. First, she's gonna drop some history to Mrs. Kirkland, and then it's going to be a conversation between Mrs. Kirkland and William. Let's play these 2 clips.
Ernestine, if you know something about the woman my son is courting, you have a duty to tell me. I spent every Easter with my sister in Philadelphia. During last year's church service, the Scots from New York were there too, but not to celebrate the resurrection. It turns out Peggy Scott had a child who died of scarlet fever. A child? A little boy who'd been adopted by the Spring family. Are you saying that she had a child out of wedlock? We didn't see a husband at church, but my sister assured me that she had been married. Why she allowed her baby to be adopted, I don't know. It's a sad story, really. A sad story that asks more questions than it answers. I knew she wasn't right for my William. I cannot believe you, of all people, did not know. That was by design. What do you mean? My son would never have wanted a tainted woman. She purposefully kept that from all of us. Where are you off to? I must take the next train to New York. William needs to be brought into the picture.
So the question I have for you, Caroline, and then for listeners out there, even if Ernestine has a lot of the facts, but she doesn't have all of the facts here. Even if she did, and even if she knew the context of Arthur's role in the baby and that there was a marriage and then they forced the annulment and all of that, even if she knew all of the details, would it have made a difference for how she feels about Peggy and how she is going to react and how she's going to run off and tell William?
Well, I think there's layers here, right? So I think at first she's caught up on the concept of like having a baby out of wedlock, right? Like that's a whole thing. And then it's going to be like a previous marriage. And then there's all these hitching points, right? Where it's like, like it's getting worse and worse. But the whole story in totality isn't bad. Peggy's part isn't bad is what I want to say. Like what happens to Peggy and what happens to the baby and everything, tragic, awful. Arthur did wrong, but he also had an entire season of redeeming himself and plus, I mean, really.
Right.
So
Dorothy literally reminds him in like the middle of this season, remember the last time you interfered in your daughter's love life.
1,000%. So here's the deal. This all sucks because if Peggy had told the story to Dr. K, I think that this would have been okay. But it really is horrible because he told her, no problem. You don't need to tell me everything right away. You can like tell me in good time, right? Like I'm going to be here when you get back, blah, blah, blah. And I said it back at that episode. I said that was a promise he was making for some level of openness. And I hate to use the word forgiveness because Peggy doesn't have anything to ask Dr. K forgiveness for, okay? But it like leaves the door open for like grace, I guess I want to say, right? Where whatever happened, there can be some understanding of it if Peggy tells the story. But knowing that if it came from anyone else, and I mean anyone else at all, it comes off like this hidden gossip instead of just simply telling the story.
It's by design. Like she says, like, it's like Peggy kept this from us by design. Like,
and that's so
maliciously ugly. Kept this from us.
That's so ugly and such a bad take. I mean, that's not what happened at all, at least in my opinion. Now, do you think that Peggy, after all those cliff walks and all those picnics and all that stuff, should she have found time by now to have told him?
She tried. I think she was going to say
we know as audience members,
Right.
we've seen her try at least once, right?
Right.
But we know they've been hanging out a lot.
Yeah, but they're in the sunshine part of the courtship, though.
Well, and I
if
guess
not for Thomas Fortune, Mr. Fortune, I don't remember if the
T. Thomas
comes first. If not for him showing up unexpectedly back into their lives and acting the way he did, she probably doesn't even share that story, which she knows she needs to tell him.
Mm-hmm. First of all, T. Thomas is still hanging around.
Well, she knows she needs to tell him the story of her child and the marriage. She knows, and I really think she was going to tell him, and then he's like, I don't need to do anything now. Like,
yeah,
slower. Like, we're not going anywhere. So this is going to be, who knows? Who knows what their conversations have been, though? And yes, we have seen them at the Cliff Walk. We have seen them at Prospect Park, but Peggy is very busy.
Okay, hold on.
So how much time have they really seen? Have they been spending time together that we haven't seen?
I think yes. And we know that there's the time at things like the tea and stuff like that. Like, we know that there's times. We know, come on, this whole show does stuff all the time where they do it off screen, off the screen, all the time. So we feel like they have been spending a long time, and they are actually very comfortable with each other. Like when Peggy and him are talking about the mom, about Mrs. Kirkland at the tea. I mean, the way that Peggy like delivers those lines and everything. I mean, she is so like,
I'm gonna talk some shit about your mom.
Kind of, yeah, and like familiar. Like we've been familiar with each other for so long, right? Let's set this up a little bit more. If you're Dr. K, you don't suspect that she could possibly have a story as wild as being married before, the annulment, the baby, the fake death first, then the real death to deal with. All this stuff, which is all tragedy on Peggy's part, but to William learning it after this time. But what I'm going to ask is Dr. K thinking whatever I'm going to have to hear about is going to be like one time I did something silly and I have to tell you about it, right? Whatever it is. But could he possibly, in his wildest dreams, think that this is the Peggy background story?
No. Let's listen to his conversation with his mother, though, because I think how he reacts here, there's this question that's been out there. Dorothy gave voice to it in the show, but it's something you and I have been talking about for even longer since they first really started seeing each other, is how much is William willing to stand up to his mother, A, and B, be a partner to Peggy and discuss difficult things with her the way Ada encourages us all to do. But the question of, will he stand up to his mother and fight for you and fight for you together and your relationship? The very first test of that, I think, is coming up in this conversation. Let's listen to this.
Mother, what are you doing here?
I have some alarming news.
Is father all right?
Oh, he's fine. This concerns Miss Scott, though I don't know why she calls herself Miss. According to Mrs. Brown, everyone in Philadelphia knows, which is why it is so shocking that she didn't tell you. That is not a person who can be trusted, if you ask me.
I didn't ask you.
Thank goodness we learned the truth, who she really is.
Miss Scott is still a kind, beautiful, intelligent woman.
Who lied? Who is a tarnished woman with a dead child, God rest his poor soul, and a husband out there somewhere doing Lord knows what.
Is she divorced?
We're not certain she even married. But we do know that she put her own flesh and blood up for adoption, which she did not care to share with us.
I must speak to Peggy.
What makes you think she'd tell you the truth now?
I'll know when I talk to her. I owe her that much.
Oh, William, you owe her nothing.
I like Felicia Rashad's like super villain voice.
Yeah.
Oh, William, you owe her nothing. Like that old thing. Oh my God. She sounds like Ursula when she does that. Ariel.
She is on a track that has no bends in it. Even through the scene, even through Dr. K's, like, William's, like, his asides and his questions and his disbelief, she's just ignoring it. She's just channeling it through. Tarnished. She was tainted talking to Ernestine. Now she's tarnished. And she lied. And she's not going to tell you the truth.
She gave up her flesh and blood. That's
like,
so
doesn't matter. She gave that child up for that dead soul up, like, William says, one, Mom, I didn't ask you to be involved.
Yeah.
Good stuff for William. 2, says, I can't just take your word for it. I owe Peggy a conversation.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Marion.
I'm looking at you, Larry, too. Let's everybody.
Sure,
we're looking at both of them. Quit just looking at Marion.
I'm looking at everyone in this show that needs to be having a conversation. Because Bertha and George need to be having a conversation, too. Clay and George need to be having a conversation. Everyone needs therapy and help in this show.
Oh, my gosh.
But William says, I have to go to her. Thank you for this information, Mother, but I need to go. I will know when I talk to her. Because she says, how do you know she's going to tell you the truth? How should I lie?
Stop with that. She's not Scar.
She's Scar Ursula.
No, but
she's singing Poor Unfortunate Souls now? Felicia Rashad, stop it.
It is a little like
Poor Unfortunate Souls.
It feels a lot like that. Like she's going to start like pulling out
we're going to
stuff.
get like a DCMA strike for me singing Little Mermaid from
No.
So, yeah, but I like you. Like, does that, how William acts in this scene and his reaction to this, and I have to go to Peggy and I will know, and I owe her a conversation. These are good things, right? This is him standing up to his mother, or this is him at least not taking his mother's word as gospel.
It's him, like allowing space in their relationship and allowing space for Peggy to be able to walk into, hopefully, I'm really hoping, a very gentle and very neutral space for him, because I know, look, he's just been given a bunch of crazy information by a very frantic mother who
has an agenda,
lots of opinions, right?
And he knows she has an agenda.
Right. And so, I mean, good on him for just immediately going to wanting to talk to her. That's all we can hope for, is that they can talk this out. That's all we can hope for.
Places are set for the finale, because this episode ends with William arriving at 61st Street. This is later on in the evening, because there was that scene where it was intercut with Peggy and her friends and Marion being like Debbie Downer with like, men suck and like, we can't give up our rights. And Peggy's friends, they're so adorable. It's the same two friends as we saw at the rooftop party for the Brooklyn Bridge opening. They're like, well, you were with William in Prospect Park. And they're like, is she okay? Is like Marion like looks away, and Peggy's like, she's got off an engagement. But they're like, but don't let her like put you off men, like, because William is Dr. Fine, and like, and like they're 1,000% right. But intercut with that is Ernestine spilling tea to Mrs. Kirkland. So now we're sometime later on in the evening. William arrives at the house. Bannister is having Peggy summoned from her room. Episode ends because George gets shot in the next one, or the gun goes off at the next scene, and the episode ends. Tables are set. 61st Street is a place to be as we're going into the finale.
Yeah.
Do you think we get resolution on this, though, before the finale? Do we think...
Before the finale? No.
No, not before. Before the end of the finale, like, is this a storyline that gets wrapped up, or is this a storyline that carries over?
Shoot. I mean, I think we have to have some amount of a conversation. I don't know how much we get. I don't know if it's the full story gets to come out or if we leave on some sort of cliffhanger. I don't know how they're going to handle this, given that they didn't know they were having season 4 when they filmed season 3. So I don't know if they will try to wrap it all up, which in that case...
We're assuming they didn't know. We're assuming that this wasn't something that they secretly knew was like...
Do you think? I really don't think so.
The ratings have been really outrageous.
No, I know
the ratings have been like sky high
so
season over season for this season 3.
No, yeah,
so,
I know.
So maybe they were crafting it leaning towards... I don't know. I don't know that we know, but I guess the safe thing is let's assume that they wrote these last 2 episodes not knowing, at least for sure anyway. That's probably the safer way to do it.
So then I have to think that if we have Larian and we have Dr. K and Peggy, one of these relationships have to work out. Like one of these two conversations. To me, because you have got two of them, I just feel like they're both like a story that somebody's got to tell the explanation to in a way that we finally get some sort of conclusion and we know, like, does it seem like you have to have one good and one bad?
I don't think so.
We can't have two good and two bad. Can we have two bad and two good?
Two bad seems too much because these are your next generation. You need one of them has to work out. One of them's got to work out. So at minimum one, I think you can have them both work out.
Okay.
Two bad seems too much.
Okay.
Because you can't sync your two young female protagonists.
Right. That would be terrible.
It would be a bad taste for things that neither of them did. Peggy didn't ask for the things done in her story, and Marion didn't ask for the things done in her story.
Right.
So you can't sync both of their happiness.
That would be terrible.
Relationship-wise, Larry and William are good men in the abstract. They're flawed.
I don't know what William's done.
Well, we don't know if William's flawed.
We don't know.
We don't know how much he's going to stand to his mother, which will determine whether or not he's flawed, right? As far as we know.
Mm-hmm.
Larry obviously lied, but I don't doubt Larry cares about Marion. I don't doubt that Larry, in his head, means the things he's saying.
Right.
I think like a lot of men, and I think like a lot of young men who haven't had life experience and haven't had mature relationships, I think he is falling into the trap that many men do fall into. The things that like, this is expedient to get me out of trouble, but is not honest. Or is not authentic, or is blame shifting.
It wasn't a mature way to handle the relationship at all. It definitely was more like he was treating Marion like his mother and needed to create a lie in order to go out. I mean, he essentially treated her like Bertha, which means, Larry, that makes you the kid in that scenario. And nobody wants to marry a kid. So,
but, I think it's interesting parallels between the fact that there is a story that is untold, and William is saying, I have to get in her. I have to see her, hear her voice and have a conversation. And Marion or Larry are like, Larry wants to have a conversation, but Marion is actively like, there's nothing he can say that's going to make this right. It's a very Tale of Two Cities kind of like.
It is. It feels like,
but
I don't know.
There's parallels there, but also such key different things.
But I just don't know that both women can end up in the good. I wish they could. And of the two of them, Peggy's relationship seems far more potential. I mean, positive potential.
It seems grounded in.
It seems, and they seem like a better match in a lot of ways. I like Larry very much, but Marion and Larry will have a lot of differences in the way that they've been brought up, in the way that they've, like, what their values might be. Cause she has complained an awful lot of times about not having the same values as, say, like what Dashiell wants to be doing in his life, right? Like her whole thing of throwing that away was, you have a different idea of what you want for your life than I do for mine. What is this big different thing that Marion wants? And does it line up with Larry?
To work, I guess.
But is that okay?
Or be a woman.
Is Larry cool with that? Like, I don't even know their freaking relationship. Whereas I feel like Peggy and Dr. K, like, I
Larry's
can already
not showing
see
up
them.
at these suffrage meetings. William is showing up at the suffrage meetings.
But like Dr. K and Peggy could move into a house tomorrow and have a baby, and I'd be like, great, I'm good with that. Like, they seem like they are chugging along.
Well, it seems like they talked it out and understood where they stand on things.
That's how I feel about them. But Larry and Marion, I'm afraid they burned too bright too fast. Something happened.
Larry, this is the problem with Larry earlier in the season for me, is when they did have their stolen moments, he just wanted to kiss her.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. She's pretty, but like, once you talk to her and understand who she is,
that's what
do
I'm
you
concerned
understand
about.
that she wants to work? Do you understand that she's going to be sponsoring suffrage meetings? Because William definitely understands that about Peggy.
Yep.
Which we have to say, so part of in their conversation at Prospect Park was, your mother doesn't like me, so how do we get past that? So they're having real relationship conversations, and William's idea is, come with me to my father's Newport ball. It's in support of his church. So it's interesting, we're going to have two balls going on, presumably in the finale, both in Newport at the same time as the African American ball, and then the High Society into Season ball that Bertha's throwing. Peggy's family was already going because Athena had already invited them to go, but William was making the point of, well, what if you don't go with your family, but you still go, but you go with me? So now does this bombshell also now wreck that? Because she said, obviously, yes, I would love to go to the ball with you. So what is this conversation going to entail? Does it derail them going to the ball? Because that ball being seen together just in like high white society, seems like that would be a marker of sorts if they're seen dancing together, together out and out in society, in public together. That's going to send a signal of intentions. And will Mrs. Kirkland throw herself upon the dance floor and say, there shall be no dancing in this ball?
I mean, it definitely feels like a soft, open kind of thing, you know? Like, it's like we're just like out here.
Gen Z alpha lingo.
Let's stop. You know what I mean?
Soft launching.
You know what I mean? It's like, it definitely feels that way.
Let's finish up with Oscar. He's our final thing, and he's just the saddest little goose.
I feel for Oscar. I love him so much.
John and I were the two youngest. We told each other everything. He knew his secrets were safe with me, and they were. So are yours.
But I thought his brothers believed...
Our brothers, and indeed my husband, would never admit what they must have known about him. I think you visited John's summer home upstate?
Yes, by the lake. It's lovely.
He wanted you to have it.
What?
It's not in his will, as that would have caused talk, but he always meant it for you if anything happened to him. There is money to pay for the costs for 5 years.
He thought of everything.
He thought of you. He left a letter for you, with a transfer of ownership, which my attorney has drawn up.
No, I can't accept this.
It's what he wanted. Just enjoy it and remember John. What happiness he knew, you gave him.
I love that line. That line really affected me. I think it affected Oscar. You know, you can remember John by taking this house and enjoying it. But this idea of what happiness he had, you gave him. Now, we saw them in good times and bad times. And,
we did.
And a lot of bad times before the most recent good times. What a powerful statement for the sister who seemed to be very close to him, to know who he was, really who he was. And that's the sentence. That's the sentiment. The hoops to be jumped through for the sister to have to be involved and a lawyer to draw up the deed to transfer it to Oscar. 5 years, not 5 months, not 5 days, 5 years worth of maintenance costs to keep up that lake property. When Oscar says he thought of everything.
He really did.
He really thought of taking care of Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
My heart was very tugged here.
Yeah, John Adams was a wonderful partner, and I felt so much for Oscar in this, and trying to come back to the house afterwards and having those photographs that the sister gave him and everything, and realizing that John like kept a photograph of him like in his desk and everything. Like,
how powerless for John to have done, because it doesn't seems that, you know, the conversation here is that my father and brothers, they never will admit what they must have known to be true, but John wasn't hiding it, though. Mm-mm. John was keeping photos of them.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing that he was able to do that. And, you know, Oscar just finally being so tired of hiding, you know, when he comes back and he just looks at Agnes, and I know Marion like stops the conversation.
She really runs cover and interference.
Yes, and tries so hard, but I don't know if that was, do you think that was Marion's role? Do you think that she should have just let Oscar say, or do you think he just would have regretted it so much?
They all would have regretted it. Things would have been said there in the wrong way. She needed, because he was broken. He expended all of his energy early. Well, let's play the clip. Let's play the clip so we can really break it down and talk to it, because for me, this was the episode. When I look back at this episode, all the Ward stuff, all the Bertha and George, everything, Peggy, Dr. K, this clip, this is Blake Ritson's Emmy nomination for me. This got me. This really, really affected me. Let's take a listen to Oscar returning home to talk to his aunts.
Is something wrong?
No, nothing's wrong. Why do you all keep asking me that every single blessed day?
Don't snap at your aunt.
We just want to know how you're managing after the loss of your friend.
I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine.
Well, then why would she do such a thing? You're not family.
Well, I suppose she knew John and I were friends, but I agree it seems odd that he gave more to me dead than when he was alive.
Oh, don't be macabre.
How should I be, Mama? I can't be too sad, but I can't be too cheerful. I'm sure you don't want to hear that I miss him.
Do you know, I sat in the back row of his funeral like a stranger who walked in to get out of the rain. when I should have taken my rightful...
Oscar.
Oh, my. Oscar, what is all of this about?
Do you really want to know, Mama?
I think I understand much more about you and John Adams. I hope so, anyway.
You can't mean that.
Why not?
Because if you did understand, you'd turn away from me. Society will give you no other choice.
I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I know more than you think. I'm puzzled, maybe, but I have no wish to turn away from you.
Let's end with that last part first. This is beyond just the kind of nice sibling-esque relationship that Marion and Oscar have developed over these seasons. He says, if you really knew who I was, society would force you to turn away from me. And she says, I maybe don't understand. Maybe I'm confused, which is honest. I appreciate her honesty there, but I have no desire to turn away from you. That's a powerful sentiment that in 1884, no one is expected to make.
I think this was very kind. This whole thing reminded me of like Schitt's Creek and the whole wine and label kind of conversation where we're not saying it, but we're saying it. And we're sort of talking about how we want to support each other and love each other despite the labels and despite anything. We don't want any of that to get confused for how much, like in this case, Marion loves Oscar and wants to be supportive of him. That's what this felt like. It felt like the wine label conversation. If you guys haven't watched Schitt's Creek, go YouTube the wine label conversation. And that's what this feels like. It feels like someone saying, I support you no matter what. We don't have the words to say what we're talking about because of society, because of the time, because of what Marion can understand and what Oscar feels like he can share. But I did feel it. I felt like that just unconditional support that Marion was offering.
She goes on to say, I just want to help you. And he says, you have helped. And then they hug each other. She hugs him. And that's how the scene ends. Isn't that true, though? Isn't that true when we're going through things in real life? That just someone saying, maybe I don't understand the nuts and bolts of it, the specifics of it, that maybe that confuses me. But I'm here and I'm not turning away from you. My arms are here and I want to hug you and I want to be there for you. Man, that helps. That sometimes that's all you need. You have enough fortitude yourself, but you just need that extra push of support.
I hope that this clip finds, some resonance with some people in the audience who maybe have their own personal story of them talking to their family members about their own sexuality. Maybe they have their own stories of encouragement or support that maybe was kind of a little veiled support like this has to be for Marion. Obviously this is a very layered conversation that they're having that it's handled very tactfully, I think. And I love that it retains Oscar's dignity. He doesn't have to feel like he was outed. He doesn't have to feel like he told more than he was comfortable with. I think they handled it very well. I think they protected Oscar's character, and I think that they allowed him to have this extreme outburst, and that was a fierce outburst. He's spitting at his mom and his aunt, everything. So I think they handled it very well as a show. What do you think?
I did. I do think they handled it well. I think to go back to your question about Marion jumping in there at the end, I think the clip was very edited. It's a very long scene. So to get it all in and hit the high points, I had to omit certain things. But when he can't finish explaining, taking his place at the rightful front of the church as John's loved one, and he just trails off, he can't finish. And that's when Marion steps in. Marion had to, because Agnes her hackles were up because she, maybe like John's brothers and father, knows but can never admit what she knows. But she seems genuinely unsettled in this episode.
For sure.
In this scene, even when Oscar does go upstairs, there's the camera lingering on Agnes.
Her mind is thinking.
She doesn't know what she is. Because especially in the beginning of the episode, when Oscar is heading out to go meet the sister, John's sister, she says, let him be, she says to Ada, men don't feel these things like we do. So Agnes already has Oscar's story in her head written. She already understands, she thinks about how Oscar feels about this and the right time, to grieve and to move on. And he's not going to be super affected by it. She's already moved on in this. She's already played all of the pieces and moves for for Oscar's story in her head. So this really put her back on her heels. I'm curious if there's fallout for Agnes from this conversation, because she looks so unsettled and so uncomfortable even after he leaves the room.
Well, not just uncomfortable. It's like you can see her mind
working,
turning. And it's like you're like they go right in on Baranski's face, and it's just like you can see her putting the puzzle pieces together, and it is a slow burn, though. And
he says, do you really want to know, Mama?
Yeah, like, do you want me to say it? It's essentially like, but do you want me to say it out loud?
Right. Or maybe you know, too. Do you really want me to say it?
And it's just like, ooh.
Guys, I don't know. But where do we go for Oscar here? Is the outburst, because sometimes venting is the part of grieving and mourning and anger that we need to get over, is the conversation with Marion, this person who doesn't owe me anything. God, the last time we had a conversation, I was revealing the Haymarket, the content of the Haymarket to her, but here she is embracing me. Is this enough to get Oscar over the hump to begin healing? Does he need to go see Deshkova to talk to John? Or where do we go with Oscar here? We have one episode left. I don't know if the table's set here for Oscar. I don't know where we go with him this morning.
I kind of actually think that his just tapered down to an end. I don't think that there's like a table setting for him. I don't think that there's something big that's going to happen in the next episode. It doesn't feel that way to me. It feels to me that they can just let his character kind of quietly end the season, and that would be okay. With the 2 balls and the everything, I mean, he can still attend things, I guess, and just sort of be like an extra person attending these different things. But I don't actually think he has much. To me, I don't think there's much more to say right now.
No, well, he's another one who in this season has been a winner and a loser. Mm-hmm. He started off as a loser, through John's help, which he's angry at John being dead. And this is the way that we get angry at someone who dies, who didn't have any role in their death, because he says giving this house was more than he ever gave me alive. Oscar, no. Come on. He just rebuilt your business for you because of love.
That was just lashing out.
It was just lashing out, but sense. Very human, very realistic human. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if we just get a little bit of a husk Oscar here. When does Oscar get back to his groove? I don't know what he might have done to the writers in the show. Oh, no. But when do we get to see Oscar actually be sustainably happy for a while? I want him floofing on couches and drinking and being
maybe
snarky.
Season 4. Maybe he'll go hang out at Jack's.
Maybe make them mixer together. I don't know.
That would be funny.
But that's going to take us to the end. I mean, this is the end of the penultimate episode. We'll be back for the finale next week.
I'm so excited. We have so many things to talk to you about. This is Caroline.
And this is Mike. Thank you all for listening to New Money, Old Rules, the Gilded Age Podcast. If you wouldn't mind heading over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Pocket Casts, wherever you listen to podcasts. That new one, the podcast. I don't use Pocket Casts, but I know other people do. And rate, review, and subscribe. While you're there, if you can leave a review, please do leave a 5-star review. It helps in promotion of the show. As of the writing of this, we are currently the 51st podcast in all of TV and film. That's thousands and hundreds of thousands of podcasts. We're number 51 in the world. That's because of you guys, or at least in the United States. Thank you guys for listening. And if you do leave us a 5-star review and it's nice, we're going to read it on the air, like these 2 reviews that I have to read right now. This one is from Michelle510. Best podcast on the show! 5 stars. So happy to find a good podcast covering the show. Great real insight and chemistry between the 2 co-hosts. Their coverage on The Handmaid's Tale was also spectacular. Pod Clubhouse just holding it down. Yeah, I love that. A fan of the show. Here's a podcast that was a 5-star review. Oh, actually, no, it was a 4-star review, so I'm not going to read it.
Oh, no, you could read it.
No, it was actually a lasty one. This is the one. Well, we'll read it. Okay, fine. This is Taxio from number 3. Enjoy, a 4-star review. I do enjoy the different perspectives. However, it's clear that the only Russell that can get away with anything and everything is Bertha.
No.
Oh, come on. We take Bertha to the woodshed.
I hope we did a good enough job, at least in this episode.
Taxio 3.
Letting you know.
We see you.
We see what Bertha's
Make that a 5-star. We yelled at Bertha this episode. All right, here's a good 5-star review, though. This one is from a must listen if you love the Gilded Age, from AJ Billings, 5-star review. This podcast has everything: humor, history, background on the people, places, and things that make the Gilded Age such a great show. I can't wait for each episode to drop. Well, AJ Billings, we can't wait for you to listen to the episodes, and all of you, again, thank you so much for listening and participating and talking with us. It really makes it seem less like we're talking into the void.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
See you next week. Thank you for listening. This has been an original Pod Clubhouse production. Pod Clubhouse is a podcast network dedicated to encouraging collaboration among podcasters and friends to bring a fresh voice and diverse perspective on a wide array of content. Please visit and leave a comment for us at podclubhouse.com. Rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast feeds on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us at Pod Clubhouse. Our DMs are always open, and we'd love to hear from you.